6 a.m. on this President's Day, February 19th, 2024. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning. How are you? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We are back at it. A whole lot to cover. What's been happening down at the state capitol. A lot of bills. And later in the show, we're going to host Rep. Brandi Bradley in the 7 o'clock hour to give us a rundown of, all the stuff from, efforts to find funding for schools and the immigration crisis to this bill that was killed the other day that would have punished to a higher degree child sex crimes. Why was that voted down by a Democrat-controlled House? So all of that and more in the 7 o'clock hour. So you're going to want to stick with us. Let's go to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. 31 and clear in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today with sunny skies. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Aurora police searching for a suspect they believe is responsible for a series of hit and runs and carjacking Sunday night. Officials say reports of multiple hit and runs started coming in at about 6:30 last night, and a carjacked vehicle was later found near E470 and I-70. A woman was reported believed to be on the run. A man has been injured in an officer-involved shooting in Adams County. Deputies responded to a reported shooting along West 80th just before 5 o'clock, and a deputy ended up shooting the man shortly after he arrived at the scene. The man was taken to an area hospital, and there's no word on his current condition. It's not yet known what led up. Into Friday morning's deadly shooting at the University of Colorado Springs. The dorm there is still underway. Freshman student Nate Mushlin shared his reaction after he called around to fellow students to confirm something was actually happening.
There was a shooter on campus, or like some gunshots, and it was just disturbing. It was quite sad as well, because at the end of the day, we're a family here at UCCS, so it doesn't matter if it's one person you don't know, or your friends.
The two adult victims were identified Sunday as 26-year-old Celie Rain Montgomery of Pueblo and 24-year-old Samuel Knopp of Parker. Knopp was a student and the female victim was not. Investigators say the incident was isolated to the parties involved and that it is not considered a random attack. 2 Minnesota police officers and a paramedic were shot and killed while responding to a domestic abuse call early Sunday in a Minneapolis suburb. Law enforcement sources say the suspected gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Former President Trump over the weekend, after being fined $355 million, talked about who he calls the crooked judge and prosecutorial interference with elections, which is illegal.
Nothing like this has ever happened. This judge is a lunatic, and if you've ever watched him, and the attorney general may be worse. You ever watch her? I will get Donald Trump, her campaign. I will get Donald Trump. I promise I will get him. She knows nothing about me.
All right, in sports, Indy 500 postponed due to rain until today at 2 o'clock. NBA All-Star Game is over. Thankfully, Nuggets back in action Thursday. The All-Star Game, 211 to 186. I hope your son plays better defense than that, Jeff, in basketball. The Avs over the Coyotes 4-3 last night. It's 23 in Lone Tree, 28 in North Glen, and 31 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, Friday afternoon, you saw it come down. Trump's $355 million civil fraud verdict. I'd love to hear what you thought of that. Is he guilty as charged, or was this a political persecution? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app, the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. Donald Trump and his businesses were found liable Friday for inflating asset values and paperwork to lenders. But given that nobody lost money, this punishment smacks of political overkill. In a 92-page ruling, New York Judge Arthur, I can't even pronounce it, and Gorgorin ordered him to pay $355 million while also banning him from being an officer for any New York corporation for 3 years. The judge has previously found that Mr. Trump fudged numbers submitted on statements of financial condition, most egregiously by claiming that his 11,000 square foot triplex in Trump Tower was actually 30,000 square feet. That's it. That's the primary thing they found them guilty on. Friday's ruling, putting a price tag on that conduct, includes pages of summarized testimony from business partners. Donald Bender, an accountant at Mazars, who helped draw up the documents, said he discovered later after being interviewed by investigators that the Trump organization had withheld records such as appraisals that Mazars had requested. In the judge's telling, Bender made clear that Mazars would not have issued the SFCs if it had known that. Here's the line out of the Wall Street Journal that was most compelling to me. This remedy is like using a Hellfire missile to annihilate a shoplifter. Deutsche Bank made money on the loans, and its valuation teams gave a haircut to the numbers provided by Mr. Trump. There was no real financial victim. Bill, what do you think? $355 million.
So the argument is, as long as there is no real financial victim, I can do what I want. So I can go to a bank, steal $5 million, and return it 3 years later. I gave the money back. There's no financial victim. They've been made whole. That's okay. Is that what we're arguing?
I don't think it's... I think that the challenge on this one is that this seems to be a relatively common practice, not one that's, kind of out there. It's like bank robberies, that type of thing. And it doesn't seem like a ton of people are being held accountable in the same way that Trump is.
Which practice is the one that is usual? Is it lying about the valuation get a loan, or is it squeeging the numbers for your tax benefits?
Probably both.
Okay. So because they're common, should we just eliminate that law? Should it be legal?
No, I think the pushback on conservatives is that this is politically motivated. That they're specifically looking for things to get him on, as opposed to, like the Wall Street Journal said here. They dropped a Hellfire missile to annihilate a shoplifter. Yeah, did he do something wrong? Sure. Did you look at your phone on the way driving into work today?
Is the amount of money that he basically was lying about, is that equivalent to shoplifting? How many times would I have to be allowed to walk into King Soopers or Target in order to take $350 million worth of product? How many times? The idea that this is minimal, that's not true. This is significant. We can argue about whether or not enforceability based on the vast number of people that do it, fine, then we can adjust the laws. But just because one person is picked up because of it doesn't mean, we get this all the time with criminal defendants going, you're not holding all the murderers accountable, so you can't hold me accountable. That doesn't make it okay. The idea that unless we hold everybody accountable, we can't hold anybody accountable, that's a logical fallacy. So I understand the idea about Trump and the money. But I'm going to talk to the phones here for a second.
Bill lost money. How much money was lost? Text messages coming in. The other argument that's made against this, though, is that this was the attorney general stepping into a private deal between a bank and between a lender and an operator, where the bank itself did not seek any type of payment back on this, where the bank did not find this to be a problem for them. The attorney general stepped into a two-party relationship to charge Donald Trump. Let's go to Barney. Line 1, Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, 710 KNUS.
Okay. Hey, Jeff. So first off, it's irrelevant whether someone got hurt or not. That's not the point. The fact is, real estate is done like this all over the flipping world. You walk into the bank, you want a loan. Hey, I need a loan for $100 million. I got this building. I think this building that I already own is worth $200 million. The bank says, no, you're on crack. But why? But it's only worth $150. So we're only going to give you $100 million on your new loan. However it works. And then if the idiot tax assessor comes in and says your building is worth $200 million, you're going to tell him he's on crack because you only got a loan for $100 million. It's all about numbers. It's not about anybody getting cheated. What you have is you have a racist Letitia James, and don't think for 1 second, it's about Trump with her, but don't think for 1 second that this lunatic radical liberal isn't going to go after all these other. What a cash cow. Wow, I got $350 on this one, $350 million on this one. The problem with this, when you say nobody got hurt, only if there were punitive damages where you would say, okay, Trump, we need to hit you for $50 million because this person got hurt or that person got hurt. There is no punitive damage. What you have is you have a crooked judge that doesn't know where his toothbrush is at. And I guess he does, I don't know, he's a nudist or something. He's a fruitcake. But you know what? New York City, you deserve this. This is just part of your demise. You guys are full of crap. You're full of liberals. And if they're going to pay one way or another, and Trump will eventually, this will get overturned. There's no way he's going to be on the hook for $355 million. But it really has nothing to do with whether there was a victim. It's done all day. Think about your house. You get a loan on your house. You want to get a second mortgage. Oh no, my house is worth
Barney, when you got a mortgage on your house, how much did you overinflate the value? Was it 25%, 50%, 75%? Okay. How much? How much did you inflate it by?
It could be up to 20%.
You inflated. Hang on a second, Barney. I'm saying that you're saying on the air that when you asked for a loan for your house was valued at $100,000. You asked for $120,000. That's what you asked for against your house?
No, don't do it that way. If you're talking about,
that's what Trump did, Barney. That's what Trump did. Trump had a $100,000 house and said it was a $120,000 house. He had a $10,000 apartment and said it was 30,000 square feet. He lied about it. I just want to know how much. If it's okay with you, and you said everybody does it, and you said you do it, I want to know how much you lied about. How much did you increase the square footage of your house in order to get a loan?
Trump can come up with whatever number he wants.
Yeah, and it's not legal.
And the tax assessor,
it's not legal.
Are going to come up with their number.
No, but the tax assessor has to do it based on reality. Trump made up numbers that weren't true. No, Trump made up numbers that weren't true. He represented Barney. He represented his apartment at 3 times its size. That's not okay.
Billy, it doesn't matter. Like I said,
doesn't matter.
The bank is going to decide to cut X number of dollars loose. The assessor's going to tax you on X number of dollars.
Got a question. Okay, Barney. So it's okay. So it's okay, sir. So it's okay for him to lie about it. Is that what you tell your kids and grandkids? Is that what you tell? Is it okay? Is okay? Can you tell your kids and grandkids that's okay? You can lie to coming into this financial. Yes, it is. He lied, Barney. Barney, he lied. Barney, at the court. This is the court.
Billy.
Barney, I can turn you off. See, your silence at this point. It's not about being mean. The issue is that we're going to have a discussion here, Barney. You're saying it's okay to lie. I want to know, do you talk to your kids? Do you talk to your grandkids? And do you say it's okay to lie to them because you're giving Trump a pass? You're saying it's okay he lied about the numbers. He lied about how big his apartment is. Where's that line?
I'm not going to refinance do a lot of things, and I'm not going to get involved in commercial real estate. But don't for 1 second, don't tell me the commercial real estate market isn't just sharks, full of sharks. Give me a break.
But
Bill, I've got a question for you. This is
Yeah.
a text message. Do you think the judge lied when he put that evaluation on Mar-a-Lago?
The judge did not put any evaluation on Mar-a-Lago. You need to get your facts straight, Dexter, please. The valuation was done by the tax assessor. The judge did nothing. The judge had no role in the valuation of Mar-a-Lago. The tax assessor came back and said the valuation of Mar-a-Lago was between 18 and 25 million. Oddly enough, during the discussion, everybody uses the smallest number. That's interesting. Almost like they're trying to make a point that it's undervalued. We're not talking about it. The tax value is 17 to 25 million. And when Trump paid his taxes, guess what he paid on? 17 to 25 million. Oddly enough,
Billy?
he didn't pay it. Ain't Barney? Oddly enough, Trump didn't pay on the higher valuation. But when he looked for loans, he looked on the higher valuation. Also, he misclassified his property on purpose. That property is classified as a social club. He knows that, and he entered into agreement with the city of Florida that he lives in there to agree that it is a social club. That changes the taxes, that changes the valuation. He then went to the banks and represented it as a valuation of a single-family residence. He knew this was wrong. He is, and Barney, thanks for the phone call. He knew that this is wrong because he tells us all the time that he is a real estate genius. To come forward and say that Trump didn't know exactly what he was doing, the real estate genius on manipulating these numbers. Come on, please. He knew exactly
Barney's
what he's
line
doing.
is open.
And it's fraud.
303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Lots of text messages. If he's guilty of this,
Call in.
why did they wait till now? Why didn't they go after him right away? Or why didn't they get him when he was president before?
A couple of things on that. Define right away, because this information did not come out until Michael Cohen was testifying in front of Congress. That is the first time that we publicly got confirmation about the dual valuations. Also, you can't charge him while he's president because under the, what is it? It's the Department of Justice and the Office of Legal Counsel have a directive that was put out that says you cannot charge a sitting president. So a president, while they're sitting, can do whatever they want and they can't be charged for a crime. Doesn't matter your last name.
Do you think $355 million was appropriate?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Why is
because of the size of the fraud, and in part because, as it is outlined inside of the order, as the judge said, there is zero remorse nor contrition from anybody involved in the Trump organization. And the independent monitor, again, there's an independent monitor that's been watching Trump's businesses. The independent monitor has reported to the judge, and this is cited inside of the ruling, that the monitor sees no change in course for Trump's business. There's no indication that given or absent a large penalty, the Trump businesses will not continue to conduct business this way the very day they walk out of the courtroom. No indication they're changing anything at all. That's why the order was so high. If he would have just gone, oh, judge, I'm so sorry. This is ridiculous. We'll change this. Oh my God, we'll never do this again. He'd end up with about 10 to 15 million. He stood there the entire time, called the judge a clown, said it's a clown show, and has no remorse. And the business says they're going to continue doing it like this. What do you think is going to happen?
You don't think this was all politically motivated?
No, not at all. Why would it be? I mean, I understand.
Because she said Letitia James said she was going to get Trump no matter what.
Okay, so let's just say that we have a prosecutor that is running for anything that says that I'm going to put the criminals behind jail. I'm going to go after guys that are car thieves and murderers.
She didn't say that.
Hang on,
she said I'm going to get Donald Trump.
Hang on. The issue is then if any murderer or car thief is picked up, can they say, well, she said she was going to get us? If it's true, and okay, let's say it's a name. Let's say the person drops a name. There's someone that is accused of murder. There's someone that has done something else. Does that then say it excuses the behavior of that person? No. We wouldn't say that a DA that comes out and says, I'm going to make sure that all these guys that are dealing fentanyl are going to go behind bars. And then a fentanyl dealer goes, look, they targeted me. We wouldn't argue that. We don't. So why do we argue it with Donald Trump? It's silly.
There's a difference when it comes to political campaigns.
So do you think that this is unusual that they're targeting that Donald Trump is involved in these lawsuits? Is it unusual?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. How many lawsuits and legal actions was Donald Trump involved in before he announced for president, before he stepped down that elevator over his business career? How many?
I don't know.
3,500 legal actions before he took any step towards president. That is more than any candidate ever in the history of the world that ran for U.S. president. So this is what I'm saying. if we have a candidate before they announce for president involved in 3,500 legal actions, that's both as a plaintiff as a defendant. I'm not talking about the result of those or anything else. I'm just talking flat numbers. When we have a candidate that is involved in more legal actions than any other candidate in the history of America, is it a surprise that after their term, they're also involved in more legal actions than any other candidate in the history of America? To me, that's a pattern, not an anomaly.
Text messages coming in. Developers who use other properties as collateral often overinflate the value of their properties in order to get a better deal from the bank.
Is that okay? And if it is, and again, if you think that's okay, remember Hunter Biden's charges, he paid back all the taxes that he is charged with fraud. So if you're going to excuse Trump because he paid back the loans, you also got to excuse Hunter Biden. And if you excuse Trump because this is not a crime that is charged very often, you also need to excuse Hunter Biden and his gun charge because that is not a crime that is charged very often. So if you think that all of these things are untowed, you also need to wipe your hands clean of Hunter Biden, just to be fair and to be equal as far as how you're thinking. Phones are open. Call and tell me if you're going to do that.
303-696-1971 wasn't in corporate division. And how come Letitia James ran her election on I'm going to get Trump when she didn't even know about this crime? If you don't think this is politically motivated, you're on crack.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It can be politically motivated, and Trump can also be guilty. Those two things can be true. The idea that Letitia James may be politically motivated does not mean that Donald Trump didn't commit the crimes. I don't understand why people say, she was out to get him. Okay, but did he do it? If he didn't do it, she would have nothing. She walked in. She was able to prove fraud before they got to the actual part of the case. Before they got to the trial part of the case, she was able to prove fraud. So the idea that this is made up is silly. Call in. Come on, texters. Show me you have the courage of your conviction.
If the only defense of Mr. Trump is that everyone does it, then we do need to tighten up the laws and prosecute more people and not let more go. I think it's both persecution of Trump and Trump is guilty. His biggest sin in the eyes of power is hubris, and he's being called for it. He brought it on himself. That being said, he made it easy for them to persecute him by his flagrant misbehavior and not being able to shut his stupid mouth. Trump shows the problems both in politics and business, and it both needs to be cleaned up. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Lots of text messages coming in on this one. I think one of the questions I'd love to hear is, this was a private deal between two people. Now, the tax assessor is one thing, but the bank never leveraged or put down any charges that they felt defrauded. They put this deal. There is a sense of accountability on the bank side that they can send people to go do an analysis of Trump's filings. And the same thing with the government. If they don't believe he's being honest with his tax assessment, then they can do something as well. So there's levels of accountability here. And the attorney general felt like they could step into these and bring about fraud charges, even though there were levels of accountability. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Former President Donald Trump told a crowd in Michigan that his $355 million fine is an election interference ploy. This after a New York judge ruled he must pay that penalty for overstating his net worth to deceive lenders. The judge also banned him from serving as an officer to any New York corporation for the next 3 years. At a campaign rally, the former president said the judge was part of a left-wing conspiracy aimed at preventing him from becoming president again, and that the ruling was an abuse of power. President Joe Biden's campaign is embracing TikTok to court younger voters ahead of the presidential elections, but U.S. adults have mixed views about whether the app should even operate in the country. In New York, Haley Bianco reports.
A new poll by the Associated Press and NORC Center for Public Affairs Research finds a three-way split when it comes to banning the app. The poll shows 31% of U.S. adults would favor a nationwide ban on TikTok use, while 35% say they would oppose that type of action. An additional 31% of adults say they neither favor nor oppose a ban on the social media platform, which is owned by Beijing-based ByteDance. But among those who use TikTok daily, 73% say they oppose a national ban.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
All right, Wall Street Journal op-ed over the weekend. Its most popular piece, Trump's $355 million civil fraud verdict. So Nicholas High was formerly a managing director of Deutsche Bank's private wealth management division. He signed off on the loans to the Trump organization. High relied on Donald Trump's 2011 SFC, where he kind of lists his assets and he overinflated those and then assumed that the representations of value in the assets and liabilities were, quote, broadly accurate, the judge says. Mr. High affirmed that Mr. Trump's personal guarantee was the reason for favorable pricing on the loan. Deutsche loans included covenants requiring Mr. Trump to maintain a minimum net worth of $2.5 billion, excluding any value related to his brand. Perhaps this explains some of the obsession by the mogul turned president with pumping up his valuations over the decades. It's true that Mr. Trump was interacting with sophisticated financial counterparties, but not for the first time. Mr. Trump's casual relationship to the truth has come back to bite him. Yet this remedy is like a hellfire missile to annihilate a shoplifter. Deutsche Bank made money on the loans, and its valuation teams gave a haircut to the numbers provided by Mr. Trump. There was no real financial victim. More troubling is that the case was brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat who campaigned for office promising to find Mr. Trump guilty of something. This is choosing a target and then hunting for something to charge him with, which is an abuse of the law. Mr. Trump isn't guaranteed a jury trial here, the judge says, because of the kind of case it is. But that's another reason voters are unlikely to hold this judgment against Mr. Trump as he campaigns for the White House. Mr. Trump denounced the verdict and says he'll appeal. Meanwhile, this example of targeted civil prosecution ought to worry fair-minded people regardless of political bent. CEOs might wonder about doing business in a jurisdiction where elected politicians use the law to smash companies this way. All right, full lines. Let's go to Kevin in Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. You had coffee yet?
Morning.
Yeah, we're off and running.
I have.
Okay. Listen, Bill, I'm going to call you out on a couple of things.
Yeah, please.
It's not critical. I just want to make the distinction that you're kind of glossing over here. One of the things is we got two buckets here. One's crime and one is civil. And when you keep referring to what Trump did as a crime, like you made the analogy going into a bank, stealing $100,000 and then 3 years later coming back and giving it back, and you say no harm, no foul. Well, that's a crime. What you're talking about there is you defrauded somebody. This is strictly a civil case. And a civil case all too often is based a lot on other people's opinions. So when you start drifting over and saying, he's a criminal or this is a criminal thing, you're off base. This is a civil matter.
I appreciate that,
now,
Kevin. And I just want to let you know that I flip those terms colloquially when I'm speaking often. I will try to do better. And I think that in regular conversations, we do that quite often. And I believe that there are other ways. There are ways in which you can see that delineation between criminal and civil, and we still hold people responsible. My example, the biggest one that we probably have is OJ. None of us believe that OJ is an innocent guy, but he's only been held. But he's only been held guilty in civil. Yet we do call him a criminal colloquially. That's all I'm saying is I understand that it's not as precise, and I apologize for it. It's not intentional. So that's all I'm saying. I will try to be better. I appreciate the point. I'm just saying I'll try to be better. Continue.
All right. With that having been said, a lot of what you're talking, a lot of your opinions, though, are really well based. I mean, you can't mistake a 10,000 foot apartment for a 30,000 square foot.
Oh, that's all the time we have for Kevin. He said that I was correct. No, I'm sorry, Kevin. That's not allowed. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead, sir.
You're not off the hook. I'm going to call back.
Yeah. Continue. Yeah. I'm just teasing you.
Well, so my point is here, though, and I really want to drive this home. A lot of the bankers who came in and testified on behalf of Trump, they were between a rock and a hard place. Because what are they going to do? Come before a judge and say, yeah, we didn't do proper due diligence, but let us still hold your money and invest your money because we're still good? No, they came forward and said, oh, no, we didn't have a problem with what he did, and we're good at handling money, and we made money on the deal, instead of saying, yeah, he kind of flim-flammed us, and, we didn't use good judgment. So, of course, the people who came in and defended Trump were actually looking out for their own best interest as well in a civil matter. Now, when it comes down to valuation of property, I have a piece of property that's worth $50,000. The bank tells me it's worth 25. Am I lying when I say no, it's worth $50,000? the bank is not looking at all the improvements I made to the property. They're just looking at the property and saying there's $25,000 worth of real estate. And I come back and go, yeah, but I put in a new sewer line, I put a roof on the house, I did this and that, and so the value of my property is higher. I have to argue those points with the bank in order to get the money that I want from the bank, and I have to change their minds. Now, in a civil matter, you have that flexibility to change your mind. Now, the whole, 10,000 or 30,000 square foot thing, I got a tape measure. I can figure things out. But again, where is the onus? Is it on Trump to say, it's 30,000 square feet and I'm good with that? And the bank accepts that as a valuation or a size, and they go, okay, we'll accept that. Well, where is their due diligence? Where is their responsibility to come in with a tape measure and say, it looks like only 10,000 square feet to me? Again, it's a civil matter, and civil matters are all too often dependent upon opinion. And here's the thing, and my final point is, $355 million? $355 million? There's a whole bunch of businesses in New York State right now saying, we're out of here. All right, a slip of a pencil, I get bad advice. Something, happens that I should have been on top of, but I wasn't on top of, and I'm going to pay like $355 million for a mistake? When does a mistake cross over into becoming something that is deliberate on your part to defraud somebody? And again, it's a civil matter, so it doesn't matter whether or not you have a, quote, victim, unquote, because it's a civil matter. So the judge, I think the judge has done a certain amount of due diligence, but I also think that the judge has been playing to the crowd as well throughout this case. And of course, the prosecutor who brought it forth, she goes after Trump specifically compared to all the other businesses in New York City that are doing the exact same thing.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, all right, so she selected Trump. What better trophy to have on your mantle to say that, if you mess with us and you do things wrong here in this state, we're coming after you, than to put Trump up on the mantle and say, just like we did this guy.
Yeah. Kevin, I really appreciate that call. That was very insightful. What did you think of Kevin's thoughts on
I
this?
think he's right that the putting the pelt on the mantle or on the floor is part of this. Absolutely, that they went to. But then also the idea that 350 million, part of that, and I hold to this, and this is part of what the judge says in there, is that Trump holds himself up as this expert. So this can't be a mistake. And that's really why this thing went way up, is because Trump has in public bragged about, I can look at a building and tell you how many square feet it has and how much it's worth. He's bragged about that in public. So then when you get into a trial where it is shown that the property is X number of feet, and he has represented it as 3 times that size, not just once, but for years, the guy that says he's an expert, that he can look at something and know how much it's worth, and look at something and tell you how much square feet it is, he loses the mistake. It's intentional. That's why it's at 350 million, because it's intentional.
Kevin's line is open, 303-696-1971. Ron Greeley, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
What's up, guys?
Great to have you on.
Wow, was that guy on target? Oh my gosh. What can you say after that? Because he is so exactly right. However, one thing that Billy was saying earlier about, if Trump would have been nice and if he would have said, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I wish I would have done it. I'll try to do better. Could have probably only charged him $10 to $15 million. Not in this lifetime. Never. And to think that would happen is that's just dreaming right there, because there's no way. We know this is political.
Yep.
Everybody knows it's political. People that say it's not political are, they're just,
Ron, I got a question for you. Did he do it?
Yes.
Okay. So the politics behind it becomes somewhat irrelevant. That's secondary. It can be political, but if he did
in your mind.
No, Ron, the issue. Okay. So the issue is this: in your mind, if political supersedes, then that means that any time we have a Republican, the Republican can't charge the Democrat because it's obviously political. If we have a Democrat can't charge a Republican for anything. If we have a Republican judge, the Republican judge can't sit in front of a Democrat. From now on, before we even arrest a person, we have to figure out what the party is of the arresting officer and the party of the alleged criminal. Because if we are going to, well, yes, it is, because again, according to Ron, that it is politics. Our filter about what is good or right.
Letitia went out there. If you had a district attorney, and this kind of gets into what George talks about when he's running for district attorney here. When you have a district attorney that runs out there during her campaign and says she's going to find something to prosecute him on, I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, the law should be neutral on this. If Letitia never made those comments, ran and just said, I'm going to uphold the law, I'm not going to specifically name Donald Trump, I'm not going to claim I'm going to run out there and find things to prosecute him on, I think I would be more sympathetic to this judgment here. But it's like hiring a political operative as the district attorney and then just unleashing them to go find anything they can, not to deliver justice, to destroy your political career.
Now, I disagree on that. And now, Ron, what do you think about that? Is Jeff correct? Because I completely disagree. And I'll give you an example in a sec, but what do you think?
Well, you're becoming like a second grade book. You get real easy to read anymore. And of course you're going to disagree with him. But what you were just saying, when you look at our judicial system for the past years, the answer of what you were saying is like, yes. If you're Democrat and you're going, or you're Republican, you're going in front of a Democratic or judge, and you did something bad, or you did something that's not very bad, you're going to get nailed. Versus if you're a Democrat going up against a Democrat that you did something really bad, you're going to get a slap on the hand and you're going to get released. That is our system right now as we speak.
How often is a political party discussed inside of civil cases and inside of criminal cases? How often?
Out loud, probably not.
Okay.
Behind doors,
then tell me,
all the time.
Then, Ron, help me come to the conclusion. You're saying that we now are adjudicating our crimes based on our political affiliations when that's not subject inside of the cases.
Yes, that's what's so scary. Come on, look at what's going on.
Or Ron, maybe, Ron, it's not happening. Maybe you think it is and it's not. Because you just said that they're not doing it.
I think they are doing it. Come on, guys. I mean, look at BLM. Was anybody arrested for destroying the city of Denver?
No, not Denver. 15,000 Denver. 15,000 people have been prosecuted nationwide for those protests. We can talk about, whether or not we need to have those prosecutions and who should be charged and why. But again, I find it very interesting that we're going through the idea that it has to be my political affiliation has to be my filter before I decide whether or not these crimes. So obviously, Bob Menendez, the New Jersey guy, he can't be charged by Biden's Department of Justice because they're both Democrats, right? So he's free.
Feel like
he's free, isn't he?
Menendez feel like a breath of fresh air? Though?
No.
You're
but according to Ron, according to Ron, he's free. Yeah. And if you're telling me that it's all political, then how come we have ones that aren't? Someone needs to explain that to me.
Let's get to the phone calls real quick. Let's go to Bob. You're on Jeff and Bill's show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Bob.
Yeah, well, good morning. I do like the focus of your show on discussing the issues. I think that's great. So I am a lawyer of about 45 years, so I've been following, these cases. And, I don't want Trump to be president again. I mean, that's my orientation. But I agree with the Wall Street Journal article and what you're saying, Jeff, about, no harm. And this is sort of over the top, and I think it's hard to understand without considering that it is a political prosecution. And I haven't read the decision. I guess I need to read the decision, but I did read the decision over the weekend of the Colorado Supreme Court on the insurrection case, which is now in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And, I think that, Trump is guilty of causing that insurrection. So
Well, Bob, I appreciate the call. Thanks for the independent thought. That we really appreciate that on this show. Bob's line will be open 303-696-1971. Guys, generally we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with ED, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
full phone lines and text messages coming in. I believe what they did with Donald Trump, $350 million was excessive, and it shows exactly their bias. Trump did not commit a crime. He's a victim of a political crime. Bill responding to a lot of these text messages. So feel free to engage in the intellectual battle taking place this morning on the Jeff and Bill Show. All right, let's get to You Choose the News.
Yes, sir. Despite everybody's better suggestions, we are still going to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. We have spent mere moments this weekend scouring the internet to find really stupid things that humans have done to play this fake radio news game show because nobody in charge is awake yet. Alrighty, so don't tell them because they don't know. They don't wake up. The alarm doesn't go off for another 9 minutes, so hang on. Alrighty, you got 9 minutes to do this. Here we go, sir. And joining us, of course, is Mr. Blake Olson from our news department as well. Blake will choose our third story this morning. Here are our choices. Headline number 1, free water feature. Headline number 2, work from home leads to some serious issues. Headline number 3, wedding vows interrupted and leads to love. And headline number 4, but what about the snail? Alrighty, sir, your choices this morning.
I'm going to go with the snail.
Yeah, but what about the snail? You remember Mr. Shel Silverstein, poet. He talked about what happens when you put your finger way too far up your nose. It just might be getting bitten off by that snail up there. But a 39-year-old Danish man evidently is not afraid of that snail because he now holds the Guinness World Record for stuffing 68 matchsticks up his nose.
No.
68 up his nose. And he said he thinks he's at his limit. To increase his capacity, it would require some training, of which I'm not really sure what that means. I'm very curious about that.
I used to have a youth group party trick where, because I was a youth pastor for years, I could put spaghetti up my nose and then pull it out the back of my throat. Except for one time it broke off and was stuck up there. And the next day I sneezed and out it came on my desk.
That is fantastic. Oh, my God. Okay, second choice this morning. Free water feature, work from home leads to serious issues, or wedding vows interrupted and leads to love.
Let's talk about love.
The wedding vows interrupted and leads to love. Now, this is interesting. This is Kara and Matt Hamden. Recently, they were getting married. It is in Hudson Valley, New York. They have a beautiful outdoor wedding kind of area at the facility. And during the wedding vows, they get to that point about, if anyone has anything to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. And all of a sudden you get, a stray cat interrupts the wedding vows and becomes part of the wedding ceremony there. Now, the couple falls so in love with the cat, they come back the day after and help the facility over a series of days trap the cat. They then take it to a vet, check it out, and the cat is now named Daisy and has a brand new home. So the cat interrupted the vows and now has found its forever home. Isn't that cool?
There you go. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Now, to make sure we end on a down note, we're going to go to Mr. Blake Olson in our newsroom. Your choices that are left, sir, are free water feature or work from home leads to serious issues.
Oh, let's go with the work from home.
Work from home leads to serious issues. Now, there is that argument about whether or not we should be able to, since the pandemic, work from home. Can you then have to be forced to go into the office? There are some jobs that have to be done in the office. Things like fireman, surgeon, policeman, astronaut. No, none of those can be done work from home. Also, strangely enough, same goes for funeral home director. No, funeral home director certainly can't be a work from home job, as a resident of Denver recently found. The funeral home director here in our very lovely city has lost his home residence. He has been evicted. And when they came in to clean it up, they found out he was taking some of his work home with him. They found a deceased woman that had passed away 2 years ago in the hearse in his garage. And the remains of up to 30 individuals. But since they are all ashes, they're having problems exactly figuring out who, when, etc. The people in the ashes, they appear to have passed away between 2012 and 2021. He's been keeping his job at home.
Guys, there's one in Colorado Springs too, and now in Littleton.
I know, isn't that crazy? That's just
one thing to do.
Yeah, you have one thing, and it's just. And the idea is that, bringing the bodies home, what is going on?
You know what? I grew up with two families that actually lived in the second floor, the family funeral homes.
Oh, good. I
So
thought you were going to say I grew up with a body in the basement. I was really worried there for a second.
No. Thank God that didn't happen.
Great. Okay,
But,
good.
I always wonder, how do they do that, man? I
Yeah.
mean, they're great families, and both, with businesses, and they lived on the second floor, and the funeral home was on the first floor. Man, that would be tough to sleep.
Did they
for me,
always?
at least?
Did they always smell like formaldehead? Was it one of those things?
It was weird. They did. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's one of those
But they
things.
had an interesting deodorant, though.
I bet. That is great. Well, that is it. That is all the time we have this morning for You Choose the News. As always, I am a giant loser, and our winners, of course, Blake Olson from our news department and host of the program, Jeff Hunt. Congratulations, gentlemen, for being such great winners, and especially on a Monday. All right, enough of the silly stuff. Let's get back to the real things.
So in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to host Rep. Brandi Bradley. We're going to be talking about all the craziness that's happening down at the state capitol, including, did you hear that the Democrats killed a bill that would have increased punishment in child sex crimes?
That's crazy.
They killed it. Colorado Politics reporting. So we're going to get all the insight happening at the Colorado State Capitol at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. You're not going to want to miss that.
Maybe it's because there wasn't a safe molestation area, like safe drug injection sites. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Yeah, that's how I roll, baby.
Oh, good Monday morning, the Jeff and Bill Show.
We ain't holding back. News Talk 710 KNUS. dismissive.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, everybody. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Hey, it's President's Day, and we are playing some of the greatest speeches from the presidents of the United States. Here's one from Joe Biden.
Well, thank you all. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
Yummy.
Oh, good President's Day to you. Coming up in just a second, we're going to hear from Representative Brandi Bradley. She represents Colorado House of Representatives District 39 about the craziness happening at the state capitol. But in the meantime, let's get to the news with Blake Olson.
All right, Jeff, thank you. 31 and sunny, beautiful in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, police are identifying the two people who were found dead inside the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs dorm room. The bodies were found Friday after what police called an isolated homicide. On Sunday, police identified the victims as 24-year-old Samuel Knopp and 26-year-old Celie Rain Montgomery. Knopp was enrolled at the university as a student. He's from Parker, while Montgomery was not. She is from Pueblo. The investigation into their deaths is ongoing. A member of the Senate Intelligence Committee says it's not a coincidence that the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny happened at the same time the Munich Secretary Conference was being held. Speaking on Fox News Sunday, Colorado Democrat Michael Bennett said Navalny's death while in prison was Russian Vladimir Putin's way of telling the world he can do whatever he wants and that he doesn't care about what anyone thinks. The widow of Navalny says the Kremlin is holding and hiding his body in an effort to cover up his murder. His mother and lawyers have reportedly been denied access to the body. A proposed bill would make it illegal to hold your phone while driving in Colorado. Pete Piccolo with Bicycle Colorado says that advocates have been pushing for something like this, and it's even more important to them this year.
Frustration and sadness with the rise in traffic fatalities of particularly pedestrians, bicyclists, and people on motorcycles, and the fact that distracted driving is a big contributing factor.
Under the proposed law, a hands-free device like Bluetooth would be required to take calls while driving. Similar bills have failed over the past 15 years. Former President Trump, of course, over the weekend, after being fined $355 million, talked about who he calls the crooked judge and also President Biden, prosecutorial interference with elections, which is illegal.
Congress ought to impeach crooked Joe Biden for attacking his political opponent by weaponizing the DOJ, FBI, and even local DAs and attorney generals against his opponent, me. They ought to do that.
All right, in sports, the Indy 500 postponed due to rain until today at 2 o'clock. The Avalanche over the Coyotes last night, 4-3. NBA All-Star game, 211-186. The East won it, the most points scored ever. There was no defense played at all, of course. NBA gets back into action on Wednesday. The Nuggets play on Thursday night against the Wizards. 29 in Englewood, 28 in Arvada, 31 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. They're really just underway. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Well, there we go. Heard it start for a second. Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. Happy President's Day to you. Joining us on the VIP line, on News Talk 710 KNUS is Rep. Brandi Bradley. She represents House District 39, which is most rural parts of Douglas County. Representative Bradley, thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, we got to get to it. What is going on at the state capitol? Let's start with this first bill. Colorado House Committee kills bill to increase punishment in child sex crimes. Can you give us insight into what happened last week with this bill?
Well, I think we knew that it was going to go to Veteran Affairs to be killed. We got good bipartisan support. Representative English got on the bill with me, even though Monday the Democrats tried to remove her from the bill, citing that she was going to receive death threats, which is funny because I didn't receive any death threats for this bill. Took it to the State House, Veteran Affairs, and it was to make buyers of children have a minimum 4-year sentence. In the state of Colorado, these crimes against children are probation eligible. In the state of California, the same crime gets 25-year sentence.
Wow. So we're more lenient than California when it comes to child sex crimes. So this bill was introduced. It was going to add greater teeth into Colorado law. But after following, hours of testimony in which victims were brought in and victims who were bought and sold as children kind of testified and overwhelmingly testified in support of this bill. More than 50 witnesses. It died. Why did it die? Why did Democrats vote this down?
That's a great question. Why are we protecting pedophiles? I mean, last year we saw 27 Democrats vote against a Democrat-sponsored bill to make it a Class 6 felony to expose and masturbate in front of children. So tell me why they're voting this way. I have no clue.
You didn't get any insight from testimony, from questions from those on the bill, anything like that? They just kind of listened to over 50 testify in support of it. Only 3 testify against it. And from what I'm reading in Colorado politics, by the way, if you want a good website to go get details of what's happening at the state capitol, coloradopolitics.com is there to listen. But those that testified against the bill even kind of said, we don't really know why we're testifying against it. We just don't like it. Here's a line from this article. Testifying against the bill were 2 attorneys with the state's public defender's office who noted a recent hacker attack meant they had not seen the bill until yesterday. They were also unable to answer questions on the number of buyers of children they've defended in the past. So almost nobody testifies against this bill. Those that do are clearly just uneducated, didn't even really read the bill. And yet the Democrats still voted this down. And you have no sense from questions from your colleagues why they did this?
Well, Representative Epps said that she didn't think it was fair to put someone who had created an offense against her in jail to be abused in prison. And, her hurt and brokenness doesn't get to tell her how to vote for her constituents. I mean, we had 50 people come in and say what these crimes have done to them, and it fell on deaf ears.
Wow, that is shocking. Was Epson was she present there, or was she zooming in?
She unfortunately was in person.
She was fortunately in person. All right. Well, that's shocking. Do you think there'll be any ramifications for this? I mean, Colorado politics is covering this, but my goodness, as we heard just in the news before, they're going to penalize you for holding a phone while you drive. Meanwhile, they're going to allow, probation for child sex crimes. What is going on here?
Probation for child sex crimes. It's the most atrocious thing I've ever seen them vote for. Now, I'm going off on Twitter. I have had activists send me letters, emails, threatening a lawsuit. I have representatives going against me saying I'm inciting violence. I'm having
against whom? Against child sex predators?
No, against the 8 people who voted my bill down. I'm inciting violence.
So this was your bill. Interesting.
Yes, this was my bill.
Wow. So the Democrats are angry that you're calling them out by name for voting down this bill.
Correct. And the one person that came to testify in opposition, who is a pro-sex worker, actually said that this bill was going to harm more kids because kids in the LGBTQ community that get kicked out of their homes need the ability to make money by prostituting themselves. On the record said that.
Wow. Unbelievable. What is happening to those kids? That's just unbelievable. There's another bill out there that has to do with requiring teachers to use the preferred name of a trans student. Can you talk to us about that bill?
So that's Bill 1039. It's a non-legal name change bill, meaning that your child can go to school and non-legally change their name. Teachers, people in the schools have to call them that new name. Yeah, I mean, you know, we know that we're federally protected by that. It's a stupid bill. We're going to kill it. It's unlawful. You're teaching kids to tell secrets or keep secrets from their parents.
And your sense is that you will be able to kill that at the state capitol?
Well, if we don't kill it at the state capitol, we know that federally parents are protected, that the schools legally have to tell parents about a name change.
Huh. Interesting. I mean, Colorado finds itself in this place where they will oftentimes pass bills that they know are unconstitutional and allow 4 or 5 years of implementation before it gets all the way to the Supreme Court, before it gets shot down. I mean, you get a sense that the Democrats down at the state house and state Senate will move this bill forward, even though it's in opposition to federal law.
I don't know that they think that we know that it's opposition to federal law. We're going to go on to the House floor on Tuesday if they bring it back to the floor and make sure that they know that. The Senate, they seem a little bit smarter than the Democrats in the House.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about your experience down there, because it's the House is so driven by radical leftists. I mean, they're pushing efforts to ban all oil and gas drilling in 2030. They've pushed now at least 4 anti-gun bills. All of this legislation is coming from very passionate leftists in the House. How do you deal with it as a rational conservative having to go to work each day against this?
Well, you know, government is not my idol. You know, my faith is what gets me through all of it. These people, they've gotten a little bit of power and they're going to go to the extremes. I was at a meet and greet on Saturday, and this is not socialism anymore. This is communism. They rule 14 us, they rule 16 us, which means they limit debate and then they completely end debate. So 19 Republicans who represent almost half of Colorado don't have the chance to speak for their constituents.
That's amazing. Do you think that what's happening, particularly in the House, is driven more by special interests than necessarily constituent concerns? And that's something I've noticed when I'm down there testifying on a bill. It feels like these laws are written by special interest groups. The lobbyists that show up have not only paid the campaigns of these leftists, but they're writing the bills, they're pushing it forward. That the entire thing is just a special interest favor factory.
You nail on the head. You see Planned Parenthood, Colorado Education Association, now the sex worker lobby, obviously the porn industry. That's who's running the show, and they don't have the Democrats. Some do, but they're just puppets in this game.
Wow. We know Rose Puglisi has now assumed the role of the minority leader in the House. How's she doing?
She's doing great. We talked all weekend because of this threatening lawsuit, and just said, you know, we've got your back. We have a constitutional lawyer who said this is my First Amendment rights and they're trying to silence me. And, you know, they picked the wrong mama bear to try to silence. When you come after kids and you say you're going to vote not to protect children, you're going to protect to keep pedophiles on the streets, I will not let you live that down.
Good for you. We're talking with Representative Brandi Bradley, Colorado House of Representatives, District 39, which is big parts of Douglas County. Let's talk about the anti-gun bills that they're pushing right now. Can you give us a sense of what Democrats are doing down at the state capitol against the Second Amendment?
Oh, I mean, they're completely coming for the Second Amendment. They don't want you to own guns. They want to make it as hard as they can for anyone to own a gun, for anyone to protect themselves, being sensitive areas where, you know, you can't carry in a church, you can't carry in a campus. And I'll tell you, as a female walking across a dark campus when I was younger, I've had someone stalk me on campus before. They're just opening it up for people to be victims of crimes.
Some of the bills that they're promoting are they want to go after quote unquote assault rifles, which will include pretty much everything except for musket loading guns. They want to take you back to 1776 and hand you that. Meanwhile, the government gets to have pretty much any gun that they want. What are some of the other bills that they're promoting that are anti-gun down there?
You know, and I haven't heard all of them just yet, but the one that they just passed through the House committee, making it a requirement to get training yearly for your concealed carry. I mean, rural Colorado, my husband and I own 35 acres. We would shoot and sight in our rifles on our 35 acres. So they're not thinking about the people in rural Colorado having to get to a class just to be a gun owner. And they're just trying everything, honestly.
You get a chance to introduce, I think, 3 bills as a representative, right? So what are those 3 that you've introduced this year?
There are 5 bills.
5 bills.
My first bill just went and died. That was my minimum sentencing. I also have a bill coming up in education. It's a school safety bill. It's detection bill to keep kids safe. It does not profile. It doesn't go against your Second Amendment rights. I'm really excited about that one, although it's probably going to get killed. I have a foreign ownership land bill coming to Veteran Affairs on March 4th. It is prohibiting foreign adversaries for buying farmland in Colorado. They killed it last year. I don't know why they don't want to keep our farmland safe in Colorado with the influx of so many migrants right now. So that's slated to be killed. And then I have a bill Senator Mark Baisley and I are on going after the teachers unions and how they use dues to fund candidates. And then my last one is a education media bill to go against porn pop-ups when our kids are online doing their homework.
That's great. Are you hopeful on that one? Can we at least get the Democrats to try to stop that one?
No, I'm not hopeful for any of it. But you know what, Jeff? At this point, it's not the success of a bill getting out. It's the success on getting on radio shows like this and letting you know what the Democrats are doing to not keep our kids safe.
What is their obsession with pornography and children?
I think that they've gone after the nuclear family, and now they're going after the innocence of our children. We see it everywhere, right?
That is shocking. Well, Representative Brandi Bradley, we really appreciate you being on with News Talk 710 KNUS. Friends, let me know what you think about what they're doing down at the state capitol. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. There's a part of me that wants to hold out some sense that what's happening at the state capitol, there's some rationality behind it, but I do not understand why this Colorado House committee would kill a bill to increase punishment in child sex crimes. Why, as Representative Bradley just said, that her bill to ban pornographic pop-ups when children are using computers likely wouldn't pass. Is there a sense that I'm just kind of naive to why Democrats would? I don't want to fully assume that they're really that bad. Is there somebody that can explain why they killed this bill in the Senate? Bill, do you have any sense of why they would have killed that bill in the Senate?
Based on the conversation with Brandi, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I'm trying to figure out what the larger game as far as politics makes sense. And the part of it that I hope that Brandi is doing and some of the other Republicans is use this for campaigns coming up. We got some things coming up in the fall. Yeah. Use this as campaigns, as these are the decisions that when you give the liberals so much power and control, these are the decisions that we get to, that we can't possibly increase punishments for people involved in child sex trafficking and abuse. That's an important part. I wouldn't even highlight what we were looking at the changes. Right. I would highlight the issue is they weren't willing to go from this tiny little slap on the wrist to something significant. Yeah. And I think that's a really, really interesting point to say, if you're trusting them to keep you and your family safe, if you're trusting these people to keep children safe across our state, this is what they view as the punishment for the individuals taking advantage of the vulnerable. That's Probation. What they believe is important.
California minimum 25 years Colorado probation.
That's important. The idea that it's probation.
If we got any of this wrong, and I'm talking to leaders in the House of Representatives, Democrat leaders in the House of Representatives, please explain, because this article from Colorado Politics, which is not a conservative leaning article, this is just reporting of what happened. You all don't give much of an example or a reason why you oppose this bill. You're just kind of silent on it. And the people that showed up to testify against it, they didn't have much. They didn't have much either. Let's go to line 2. Andrea Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good.
Hey, I would like to say that I was at that House bill testimony last week. Brandi Bradley did an amazing job pleading, begging for people to understand what the ramifications are on our children by allowing this to continue to happen with no punishment. It was my opinion, watching the representatives that were pretty much attacking it, that they kept changing what the bill was. It seemed to me that they were trying to make it as part of the larger trafficking bill, and they kept twisting it for it to make it look like it was that this bill was attacking the trafficker, saying that, oh, if the trafficker had been trafficked when they were young, we have to give them some leeway.
So it's the understanding part of it. Is that what I'm hearing from Andrea? We have to understand why they're committing the crime, not the punishment. Yeah.
I think they were acting like they didn't understand that it was about the buyer, but many of those, 45 or 50 people tried to say, hey, let's refocus this back. This isn't about someone who had been trafficked and was now trafficking. This is about the person who is buying it.
Excellent.
Who is buying our children. And then there was a couple of times that people tried to then circle it back around to the race and disparity of what race you were. I'm trying to be careful so that I don't offend anyone.
Brandi, can I interrupt you just for a sec here? That one of the things that makes me angry in this conversation, not at you, but in this conversation about the excuse, and in my mind, it is an excuse that perhaps these people that are doing the trafficking, the buying or the selling, had been trafficked, and we need to understand their pain. We need to understand. This is what makes me mad about this. Guess what, guys? If we change this punishment, we break the cycle, you morons. That's what
exactly
happens.
Right.
We break the cycle. So the people that could be the people that you're excusing of the crime later on, we're breaking the cycle. If you're really, really worried about those traffickers, either the buyers or the sellers, and you're worried about what they went through, then why on God's green earth would you allow it to continue
to happen?
That's the problem I have with this dumbass argument. But I'm going to calm down.
They weren't saying that part. They were saying that in DOC, there is no opportunity for them to get treatment. Therefore, we have to look at other avenues. But the part of it that was being lost was that it wasn't about the trafficker. It was about the buyer. And by and large, the buyer is an older white male. Yeah. It is not the African American who had a tough time growing up. It is somebody that has money, that has good counsel, so when they do get caught, they get out of it. And the public defender's office did say, well, we don't have those stats, we weren't able to pull this up. They were very vehement. And I'm going to say, in my own personal opinion, Mr. Chair of that committee was annoyed. It felt to me like he was annoyed that there were so many people that were testifying for, because he kept saying, okay, we're going to have to make this, we're going to cut it off at 2 minutes. Or, somebody read a survivor letter, and he said, well, if you're not going to testify on your own or for yourself,
Really?
we're not going to have somebody reading somebody else's.
And that's common
it felt very
practice
biased.
down there. They allow people to read letters all the time. They were just trying to shut down this testimony. Andrea, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. If you were there at this hearing that took place last week in an effort to pass a bill that would increase punishment in child sex crimes, if you were at that hearing, I'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. It's hard to understand why this was killed. California, 25-year minimum for child sex trafficking. Here in Colorado, a probation. Some text messages. Keep in mind, it's a spiritual war, and we know who heads that. I think there's a lot of truth to that. Does this make you angry? Like, at what point, and this was the frustration I had leading the Centennial Institute down at the Capitol, was we would like notify everybody of all the craziness that was happening at the state Capitol, and then voters would just continue to put the radical left back into power and give them more power. Do you think this finally breaks through with independent voters and gets them to kind of go, we've got to change who's running down there? Because when you have absolute power, you're going to be corrupted. You're going to be corrupted. You know who has good, strong values? My friends at the law offices of Dan Caplis. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar jury verdicts in motor vehicle crash cases. Dan and his partner, Babar Wahid, won the largest truck crash jury verdict in Colorado history. The firm's history of 7- and 8-figure settlements and verdicts speak for itself. They are a firm where good people from all walks of life, without regard to ability to pay, receive the level of legal representation that the rich and powerful enjoy. Dan Caplis Law believes that talk is cheap, experience counts, results matter. The firm would be happy to share with you its track record of outstanding jury verdicts and out-of-court settlements. Dan Caplis Law believes that who you hire says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. They suggest that you choose a law firm that shares your values. The firm believes that its core values have been the foundation of its historic success: faith, integrity, hard work, and a dedication to righteous causes. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We'll get to your calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. President Joe Biden's campaign is embracing TikTok to court younger voters ahead of the presidential elections. But U.S. adults have mixed views about whether the app should even operate in the country. In New York, Haley Bianca reports.
A new poll by the Associated Press and NORC Center for Public Affairs Research finds a three-way split when it comes to banning the app. The poll shows 31% of U.S. adults would favor a nationwide ban on TikTok use, while 35% say they would oppose that type of action. An additional 31% of adults say they neither favor nor oppose a ban on the social media platform, which is owned by Beijing-based ByteDance. But among those who use TikTok daily, 73% say they oppose a national ban.
Former President Donald Trump told a crowd in Michigan that his $355 million fine is an election interference ploy. This after a New York judge ruled he must pay that penalty for overstating his net worth to deceive lenders. The judge also banned him from serving as an officer to any New York corporation for the next 3 years. At a campaign rally, the former president said the judge was part of a left-wing conspiracy aimed at preventing him from becoming president again, and that the ruling was an abuse of power. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
This is your. We play
this is
Britney's
Britney.
moves.
Yeah, this is Britney.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of a decadent culture.
Oh yeah.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. We just hosted Representative Brandi Bradley on this bill over this past week that was killed by House Democrats that sought to increase punishment in child sex crimes. So it would have done at least a minimum kind of number of years that you have to be in prison as a result of trafficking children. And in California, it's 25 years. In Colorado, it's probation. The bill was killed along a party line vote 8-3. So Democrats, all of them on this committee, killed this bill. Shocking. And the testimony was overwhelmingly in support of it, almost unanimously. In fact, it was over 50 in favor of it, many of them victims from being previously trafficked. Only 3 testified against it, and most of them admitted they had hardly read the bill.
Who testifies against it? Who comes in and goes, we need to understand this sex trafficking, and we need
state public defender's offices.
Oh, okay. So the guys are going to be defending the criminals.
Right,
That's what it is.
yeah, exactly.
They're mad. They're going to have to defend against, actual jail time rather than probation. Okay, I get it. They're basically coming in going, guys, you're making my job harder. Don't make my job harder. They're just whining. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
And they even admitted they had barely read the bill because of a recent attack. I mean, it's like the kid who shows up and and this happened to me in grad school one time. I did not read the book.
Oh,
and I was called on to explain the book.
Yeah.
And I laid out what the book was about, and the professor goes, it was the exact opposite of what you just said it was. And I just hung my head and was like, yeah, I didn't read the book.
Yeah, I didn't do that. Oh man.
So,
I can't believe you would actually come down there and you would testify and then go, yeah, I haven't read it. What? I didn't read it. Now that reminds me on a side note. Okay, this is an example. Recently, Pat McAfee, former punter, has a radio show. He sent 2 of his producers to go see the U2 Sphere show.
Yeah.
While they were in Vegas for the Super Bowl. And the producers came back and goes, no, she was not very good. Visually it was great, but the show didn't. And you get into the conversation, like, oh, they don't know U2 music. They went to a concert and didn't know the music the band was playing.
That's a sin for Bill.
Yes, it is. And that's what we're having here. Yeah. We had the people that came in that wanted to defend this, that say this is an awful idea, didn't know the band that is being played. They didn't know the music. That is inexcusable. You don't walk down there and offer any defense on the other side if you don't know what you're talking about. But again, I repeat myself already.
Text messages, unless justice is blind, there's no justice. This means all people must be charged equally based on merit and prosecuted equally under the law. It also means that laws must be just in order to be enforceable. Justice no longer exists in America. Case in point, satanic Democrats in Colorado's state house refuse to punish pedophilia, yet they want to prosecute people who use cell phones in cars and those who exercise their constitutional right to own a gun. Is that justice, or is it the satanic communist control of our government? It is interesting how, the left has values. They have values they care very passionately about. They firmly believe that oil and gas is destroying this world, and they will do everything they can to try to stop oil and gas from taking place. Yet at the same time, engage in child sex trafficking, probation. President of the United States lying on his tax records and that type of stuff, $355 million in penalties. They have their values. They're just really wrong, backward values. Let's go to Joe, line 1, Arvada. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Hi, Jeff. It's the same problem, really. When the two, it's funny. You would think the 2 subjects you talk about this morning are different. No, really, they're the same. If you look at Letitia James going after Donald Trump, here we are arguing over the square footage of Donald Trump's a collateral for a loan. Give me a freaking break. Excuse me. But the point is here we have Colorado communists basically ignoring their entire constituency to vote in favor of sex traffickers and the cartels.
Yeah.
And why? Because the sex traffickers and cartels' money speaks louder than you do, people of Colorado.
Now, Joe, are you saying that they're getting donations from the sex traffickers?
Oh, yes.
What do you have proof? You have proof of that?
No.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
knew you were going to ask, Billy. Is Letitia James going to find out what the motivations for these people that are supporting the sex traffickers, or in our state, is our attorney general? No. Why? Because the Democrat Party is also beholden to the sex traffickers and the cartels. They're all in bed together. And if you don't understand that, you're not really looking hard enough. If you don't understand the reason why Jeffrey Epstein escaped punishment was because of the largesse that he fed all the people that were supposed to prosecute him.
I don't disagree with that.
That's why.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I'm not certain that you can make the connection between the sex traffickers and the cartels and the Democrat Party, because you'd have to show the money flowing there. And you said you've done the research and you've looked. Yet so far you said you don't have that proof.
There's
That's
been
fair. That's okay.
numbers of stories, by the way, about the cartels feeding money to Democrat candidates.
Oh, just both candidates though, because that's what they do. They have to bribe people. That's kind of how it works. So
see,
yeah.
Now
true.
okay. So let me ask you a question: should sex traffickers and cartels be able to donate to these candidates and
no.
the foreign money?
No, they
foreign
shouldn't.
Money.
No, they shouldn't. And normally you'd have to show me that where that is laundered, because I don't think that we have, hey, here's Mexican cartel X donating $10,000 to the Democratic National Committee. You'd have to connect those dots. I would agree with you that we should not. And normally, rather than donations, they're done as bribes. That's how they're taking care of it. I mean, when the staff went down to El Paso, Texas, one of the things that the Border Patrol agents told us was that the cartels have eyes in the hotels and the restaurants, and they have paid off employees in order to feed them information. So they know when news crews come down. They know when the federales are down there. They're paying for that information. And that's how they find out. And those are not donations to local politicians. Those are bribes to individual employees.
Well, I understand. The NGOs, there's circumstantial proof everywhere. The NGOs are taking government largesse, big money, and then feeding it across the border in, as an example, with $5,000 credit cards to hand to an illegal to fly him to Chicago, and then start up here. How do they get that money? Where does it come from? It comes from your and I tax money. It comes through the federal government. How does it get there? Because Democrats are in power. It's all part of the same problem. It's fascism.
Joe, I appreciate the call, my friend. Joe from Arvada, you hung around for a long time. Thank you for the call. Going back to the original conversation about Trump and Letitia James,
Let's
and
do that again.
All that stuff. I mean, it is interesting. You have on one hand this strong prosecution of Donald Trump in New York. You have efforts here in Colorado to go after cell phone users, that type of thing. And then you have this bill that died last week. Colorado House Committee kills bill to increase punishment in child sex crimes. The big question I have is how you continue to function as a society when you just have such strong differences when it comes to punishing crimes. Right? One side sees a crime as something that can get probation, like child sex trafficking, and the leading Republican presidential candidate needs to be fined $355 million. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Let's go to Janelle line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
We're trying to figure something out here.
Yes.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Slightly confused.
So I'm chiming in very late. Someone texted me that this was happening and people were calling in. So I thought I'd call in and just give a little commentary on what the bill was about, what was behind it, and basically what the situation and issues were, what it was really about. Because I think we're talking a lot about traffickers, and the bill was not going after traffickers. It was going after buyers, which is a very different
interesting
profile.
Janelle, now you have an interesting insight into the bill that I think we should explain to the listener about. You were there to help craft, correct? Can you just give us like a thumbnail sketch of that gives us the deeper knowledge that you're bringing to the table here about the bill and what went into it, please?
So I actually had Representative Bradley as my personal representative. And so we had lunch about a year ago, and we kind of talked about what I do. And I run an NGO, which is the only NGO in Colorado and almost across the nation that actually is vetted and approved to respond on scene with law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level for recoveries of human trafficking. And what my organization does is we walk with them fully from recovery to sentencing of their case, walking alongside them as a case manager, making sure that we are making sure all of their needs are met, tangible needs, mental health needs, placement, things of that nature. And then one of our big focuses is also prosecution of those who would harm them. So we're at all of the court dates, all of those things.
Wow.
And Colorado actually has really good laws when it comes to the traffickers, but we end up being the cleanup crew. We're not going after the demand. And you hear all these comments about demand, right? But we're not doing anything about it. If men were not buying children, then pimps would not be able to sell them. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Supply and demand, you're right.
Exactly. It's hard to think that we have to break it down to something that small, but it's really what it is. And so right now, one of the arguments in the committee was, well, they can be charged with human trafficking. Yeah, they can, but that's not really why it was written. Also, when buyers, who we call Johns, are charged with that, they're pleading down to the other 7 crimes that we were speaking about in this bill, which is about the procurement and the solicitation and things like that. Then their argument was, well, child sex abuse is also probation eligible, which is true. The difference with this is that they're taking an extra methodical, premeditated step in order to secure a child for sexual purposes in exchange for money. That is a different crime. It is not a crime of opportunity. This is different. They're going out of their way to secure a child for sexual purposes.
Janelle,
now, when they're
are
charged
you
with human trafficking, we plead down to these other crimes, which are probation eligible. So it all becomes a moot point anyway.
Janelle, can we keep you? I'd like to be able to talk with you some more about this. Are you able to stick around for a second?
Sure.
Okay, great. Friends, I got to tell you about Roll 'em Out shelves. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With Roll 'em Out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm it. Here's what some of their overjoyed customers say. Life-changing. So much wasted space in our kitchen cabinets. My space has literally tripled, and I'm so happy. Joyce and Brent listened to our needs, stayed on schedule, and found solutions to our specific problems. We're so happy with our kitchen that we're now planning to do our bathroom as well. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you. That's 303-475-9601, rollemoutshelves.com. We're going to continue with Janelle. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Joining us on the line is Janelle. She worked with Representative Bradley to basically write this bill that would increase punishment for those that are buying kids for child sex crimes. Janelle, this didn't pass this year. Are y'all going to continue to work? Are there other things you all can be doing to try to push this issue forward?
Well, I think that it's kind of a loaded question. As long as the House legislature is the makeup that it is, it's kind of beating your head against the wall every year, right? Until there's a little bit more of a balance. So I don't know if going back every single year is necessarily the best way to do it. Maybe it's a ballot issue, because at this point, I myself am a conservative, and I have lots of friends who are Democrats, and they're outraged by this. I call it, if it's not just the elected official in the building, when it comes to the constituents, the Republicans and Democrats out in the wild, there's a lot of things we don't agree on. This seems to be one. And so I think if it became a ballot issue, I think that it would pass with flying colors.
Janelle, do you have a website? Do you have a social media presence where people can connect with you?
Yeah, definitely on Instagram and on Facebook. Our organization's name is From Silenced to Saved, and I'm the founder and executive director of it. So feel free to message us through that, get involved. I know that I've been listening to a couple of the callers. Some of the things coming in are a little skewed on the human trafficking front and what it really looks like. I think people are seeing Sound of Freedom. That's not really what it is here in the United States at a domestic level. So I think education becomes really big in what we're really seeing. I mean, the majority of these buyers are middle-aged Caucasian men with indisposable means that are walking away while young, vulnerable children are being purchased.
Wow. Janelle, From Silence to Saved. You can visit her website, from silence to save.org. I really appreciate you giving us a call. This was totally unexpected, but we had spoke with Representative Brandi Bradley earlier about the fact that the Colorado House Committee killed a bill to increase punishment in child sex crimes. Why that happened? Why would Democrats kill this bill? And Janelle joined us. I really appreciate you calling in. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So from silenced to saved.org, she worked with Representative Bradley to author that bill.
That was neat.
You can find out more information about that there. All right. At the top of the hour, we're going to get into the fact that Colorado lawmakers are scrambling to find funds for schools, communities grappling with immigration crisis. How much money are you willing to spend on that? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Good morning, 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Happy President's Day to you all. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're really highlighting some of the greatest speeches of all time by our presidents. Here's one from our current president.
But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Oh, my gosh. What a statesman. What a statesman.
I mean, those words calling our spirits to another level.
Those are the ones that we're going to find in the elementary schools all across America.
I don't know about you,
I'm going to bed.
but I'm going to bed.
Yes.
All right, let's get to the news with Blake Olson.
Yeah, he is so inspiring. 35 and sunny and beautiful in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado Representative Brandi Bradley joined Jeff and Bill last hour, and she's puzzled why Democrats didn't support her bill going after child sex criminals. She wants to know why we are protecting pedophiles, allowing only probation for child sex crimes.
The one person that came to testify in opposition, who is a pro-sex worker, actually said that this bill was going to harm more kids because kids in the LGBTQ community that get kicked out of their homes need the ability to make money by prostituting themselves. On the record said that.
Also at the Capitol, a proposed bill would make it illegal to hold your phone while driving in Colorado. Pete Piccolo with Bicycle Colorado says advocates have been pushing for something like this, and it's even more important to them this year.
Frustration and sadness with the rise in traffic fatalities of particularly pedestrians, bicyclists, and people on motorcycles, and the fact that distracted driving is a big contributing factor.
Police are identifying the two people who were found dead inside the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs dorm room. The bodies were found on Friday after what police called an isolated homicide. On Sunday, police identified the victims as 24-year-old Samuel Knopp from Parker and 26-year-old Celie Rain Montgomery from Pueblo. Knopp was enrolled in the university as a student, while Montgomery was not. The investigation is ongoing. Colorado Parks and Wildlife is tracking two wolves who have made their way from Routt County to Moffett County. They're among 12 wolves who were released in Colorado last year and being tracked by GPS collars. The widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny says the Kremlin is hiding his body in an effort to cover up his murder. The vocal critic of President Vladimir Putin died last week in a Russian prison, and his mother and lawyers have reportedly been denied access to his body. Former President Trump on Sunday, after being fined $355 million, talked about who he calls the crooked judge and prosecutorial interference with elections, which is illegal.
So they loan me money and they charge me a fine in New York State. Nobody's going back to New York State. I borrowed money and they wanted me to borrow the money. I didn't even need the money. They want, because that's what they do. They loan money and they like to loan it to good people in New York State. But they fined me $355 million. This judge is a lunatic. And if you've ever watched him, and the attorney general may be worse.
Sports, the Avs over the Coyotes 4-3. The Indianapolis 500 postponed until today. It's at 2:00. You can watch that. NBA All-Star Weekend is over. 211-186. The East won. The Nuggets back in action against the Wizards on Thursday. It's 30 in Aurora, 27 in Boulder, 33 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Good morning to you, the Jeff and Bill show. Hey, Bill, I got a question for you on this $355 million verdict that came against Donald Trump. Do you think it would have had a bigger impact against Trump if it was a jury verdict? Do you think Trump can just kind of shrug it off and go, it was a leftist judge, I didn't get a fair trial, this was pushed by an activist district attorney paid by George Soros, and I didn't receive justice? This was purely about going after political opponents.
Possibly, but the only reason that hurts him is because we have a laundry list of grand juries that have indicted him for other crimes. So the idea that just because it was a judge involved, and then again, what we're then doing is saying that now our judicial system is corrupt, that then we don't have to obey or follow any rules based on what the judge says if we believe they are politically motivated, because we don't have any proof. Nothing's been placed on the table to show political motivation by the judge. Nothing has. We can talk about attorney general and stuff. That's fine. But that's fine. But do remember that both things can be true. It can be a political prosecution and Trump could have done something wrong.
Right.
Both of those things can be true at the same time. But we're dealing with the judge. And the idea that we are just going to blanket say, well, and we had a caller in the first hour say that basically if the judge is a Democrat, he can't possibly rule or do anything against a Republican because that would be untold interference or whatever it was. And that's where we're coming to, that now we are going to have to walk around in society with your party affiliation on your chest, and then that will tell you what rules you have to follow based on other people around there that have other party affiliations, because that's what we've concluded. That if you're Democrat, and Democrat lawmakers are there, you get to do Democrat stuff. And if you're Republican and the cops are Republican, then you can do whatever you want. But yeah,
and that's not good.
That's kind of that's where we've come.
That's where we are. That's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely we are, and that's scary. That is spooky.
Scary.
Yeah. That's
because that was like the last thing, right? The law was the last thing that you could rely on to be independent, and now it's become so partisan through lawfare. I mean, you saw it with Fani Willis last week. Right? Here was somebody that was clearly driven by partisan politics to go after Donald Trump in the Georgia RICO case. And that was all fully exposed last week.
I disagree. I disagree on your conclusion there, but we don't have to talk about that one because that's relevant. I disagree with the conclusion.
Which Trump case are we going to discuss today? I did not know he was sued 3,000 times.
Oh yeah, 3,500. And then not sued. Now, this is the idea. It's 3,500 legal actions. And what that means is he's either plaintiff or defendant. And when I use that number of 3,500, it's just a total number. And I'm not casting any aspersions on, oh my gosh, he's a super criminal. Oh my gosh, he super likes to sue everybody. Don't care. I'm just saying the number that he had was 3,500 before he came down the escalator in 2015. Those are the number of legal actions he's been involved with, more than any other president in history. Then when it's post-presidency that we see that pattern still continue, that he's involved in more legal actions, both by suing people or being involved in civil or criminal trials, to me, that is the continuation of a pattern. But everybody else I talk to seems to forget the first part of his existence and think that post-presidency, all of a sudden, all these things started happening. That's not true. When he was running for president, he was found partially liable for fraud in the Trump University case. While he was running for president, he was found liable for fraud for running a fraudulent charity. All of you that think that your religion is important, all of you that hold that, like Jeff and I do, important inside of your heart and soul, you should think about that this guy was found liable for running a fraudulent charity, so much so that he has been prevented from running a charity again in the state of New York. So this fraud thing isn't new to him. We had two different judgments in 2015. So surprise, it's continuing.
Let us know what you think. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971 on this Trump case. $355 million decided over the weekend. The Wall Street Journal saying, well, he probably was not truthful, but the remedy is essentially using a Hellfire missile to annihilate a shoplifter. Deutsche Bank made money on the loans, and its valuation team gave a haircut to the numbers provided by Mr. Trump. There was no real financial victim. They think, more troubling, is that the case was brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat who campaigned for office, promising to find Trump guilty of something. That is choosing a target and then hunting for something to charge him with, which is an abuse of the law. Mr. Trump isn't guaranteed a jury trial here, the judge says, because of the kind of case it is. But that's another reason voters are likely or unlikely to hold this judgment against Mr. Trump as he campaigns for the White House. Let's go to Joan, line 1, Lakewood. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joan.
Morning.
Good morning. I am sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, I can relate to Trump with this government stuff because I just went through a property tax appeal. And I say, my house is worth this. And the government says, no. We have artificial intelligence that is telling us your house is worth this because your neighbor's house is worth that. And it's one of those things where it's like, what is the actual value of a piece of property? And here they're having, in the banking industry, they're like, oh, this is worth this, or this is worth this. And it's the same kind of negotiation. And the real problem is that somebody is, are you there?
We're here. Yeah, go ahead, Joan.
Okay. Sorry. Somebody is making money.
Yeah, here's the challenge I have on it, Bill, is that I feel like there are safety things involved, systems involved that would prevent outright fraud where people are damaged, right? So with regards to Deutsche Bank, you had evaluators that could have gone in and actually looked at what Donald Trump was claiming. And they kind of admit during the case that, oh, we just took, his personal guarantee was the reason for favorable pricing of the loan. And they never lost money. So you have that kind of safety valve. And then you have the tax assessors. So if the state doesn't believe that Donald Trump is being honest with his evaluation of his properties, well, they have a tax assessor to go on. And so what happens is the attorney general steps in to this issue that's primarily an issue between two private individuals, Donald Trump and Deutsche Bank, where Deutsche Bank was not harmed, made money, had the ability to double check on his evaluations, took his word for it, felt like that was fine, gave him a favorable pricing, basically based upon his personal guarantee. So the attorney general steps into this and then fines him for $355 million. And I even think they asked the judge for more. Wasn't it $370 or $390 million? That's where I have a problem with that. Joan, thanks for the call. Joan's line is open. She has a connection with Trump. She feels like she fights the government on her evaluation with her properties. Let's go to David on line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, David.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you entirely. First of all, the state of New York was damaged a huge amount, but statutorily, they can only reclaim, I think it was $250 million. And Trump had been doing this fraud for, 40 years. Different. There's so many. I think there were 900 different aspects. Like he owned so many different properties that he undervalued for taxes and overvalued for loans that you can't make some blanket statement that this was just unfair to the guy.
Where was the tax assessor, David? Where was the tax assessor in all this? They let him get away with this for 40 years because they didn't do their job?
Well, they didn't know. The tax assessor didn't know what the banks were being told. And so on one hand, he was, if you were to look at it today with the homeless problem, that how many people are homeless because the price of rent is so high that nobody can afford to rent any place anymore. Now, if you were to look at a guy like Trump who overvalued his properties so much that he, in order to break even, he was going to have to charge crazy rent. And so he created a good part of the homeless problem that we've got today simply by his fraud.
I don't think Donald Trump created the homeless problem we have today. Most of the homeless problem we have today is an addiction issue. What does Donald Trump have to do with that?
That's not true at all. The people getting when I first moved to the big city, I ran into a woman who was always dressed perfectly, perfect makeup, all this sort of thing. Turns out she was homeless. She was living in a van, down by the river. And every morning she'd put on her makeup and go to work in downtown, and she was homeless herself. And there are plenty of people. If you look at the subprime scandal of about 12 years ago, 40 million Americans, 40 million houses were evicted because of that fraud. 40 million people. And then those 40 million deeds got snapped up by mysterious big boys.
So what does that have to do with Donald Trump's case and $355 million?
Because Donald Trump's fraud directly led to the frauds going on around it. Once Donald Trump got started with his fraud 30 years ago, it encouraged other people to commit the same fraud.
Oh, David, I think you got a little bit of Trump derangement syndrome. I appreciate the call. I don't think you can blame the housing crisis on Donald Trump.
But I think the early part of David's question, that he did have a point in part of it, when he was talking about Trump and the personal guarantees, that the Deutsche Bank, and you mentioned that as well, took Trump's personal guarantee. And that is, in my mind, why we see a $350+ million judgment, because Deutsche Bank themselves say we relied on this self-proclaimed real estate expert. This person that knows so much about real estate, we relied on him telling us that this is what it's worth, and he lied to us about it. Now, that is significant. And with Joan calling in earlier, I appreciate her analogy, and I agree. Some of the analogy based on a loan, but when she's talking about the tax assessor, it's different when you triple the size of your property. That's one of the real important things here, that Donald Trump represented his property, his triplex in New York, as over 30,000 square feet when it's 11. That's not okay.
Yeah, but I still go back to the point where there were safety valves, safety protections that should have been engaged. Not to say that Donald Trump's off the hook at all, but Deutsche Bank could have done their analysis. Tax appraisers could have done their analysis. They let it go for 40 years.
Taxpayers did do their analysis. We have a long list of tax assessments on Trump's properties. Right. And this is the issue, is because the tax assessors did that. And then when Trump went out and talked to banks, he represented the property value as being much larger. He was happy.
But the argument is that y'all are making is that taxpayers,
not y'all, just
were being harmed. Taxpayers were being harmed.
No, there is the potential for taxpayers to be harmed in this, because if the valuation is truly that much higher than what the tax valuation really is, then he owes taxes. And that was part of the question that the Attorney General had when they came to him originally, to Trump Organization, and said, excuse me, you seem to be claiming this, and the tax valuation is this. Either you owe us more taxes or we're doing stuff. And the Trump Organization basically said, get bent.
How is this any different than somebody going, when they get their tax bill, asking for an appeal, trying to get it lower, and then trying to sell the house at the highest possible rate?
That analogy is imperfect because you're not including all of the information. The information would be, you would have to be trying to sell your house for the highest price, and you'd have to be lying about the size of your house, or you'd have to be lying about how it's zoned, or you'd have to be lying about the profitability of the house and or business, all of which are outlined in the judge's ruling, that Trump lied about the size of his house. So you can't sit there and say, the tax for my $100,000, for my $100,000 home, but I'm going to value it at $300,000 because he tripled the size. Same thing with Mar-a-Lago. It was not classified as a single family residence. It was a social club, but he took out loans against it as a single family residence. That changes valuation, not legal. He took out loans against 40 Wall Street, and it was underwater at the time. It was not making a profit, but he represented it as making millions of dollars in profit. Again, not okay.
But,
and again,
isn't the underlying issue, though, I want to pay as little taxes as possible and make the most money I can?
no, the underlying issue is he lied. That's the underlying issue.
Could you say that about a situation where somebody challenges the tax rate on their home so they pay as little price as possible and then sells it for as much as they possibly? Wouldn't you say that they're lying because they put their home on market for $300,000?
No.
But they told the government that it was worth $100,000?
No. And this is the reason. I agree that, again, with assets, I often talk to this with my kids. No asset has a bad value, only a bad price. There's always a reasonable price for an asset. The issue is that Trump is misrepresenting the assets. That's the core. It's a lie. It's not the idea that I have my 3,000 square foot house and I'm going to take low tax assessment and then sell it for more. The issue is that I have a 3,000 square foot house and I tell someone it's 9,000 square feet and then try to sell it to them. That's the issue. It's the lie. It has zero to do with the difference in valuations. It has to do with the core lie.
If the lie was against the bank and the bank agreed that they were frauded, I could understand that, or defrauded. But, the bank said that they didn't have any losses. They seemed to be okay with it.
I understand. But there's a long list of things in which we can say that there were, nobody was hurt per se in something happening, but it didn't make that thing necessarily legal.
$355 million judgment. Do you agree? Was this a fair judgment against Donald Trump? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Or is this just Democrats using the law to go after a political opponent? I'd love to hear from you.
We got a lot of people on the text messages telling me I'm wrong. Call in.
There you go.
What am I wrong? Help me figure this out. What am I not seeing? Help me understand what you're seeing that I'm missing. 303-696-1971. What am I missing in this? What is it that you see happening that I'm somehow just oblivious to?
Speaking of homes, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and Empower Home team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Phone line starting to fill up. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. The International Court of Justice in The Hague is opening hearings on Israel's 57-year occupation of lands claimed by the Palestinian authorities. Against the backdrop of Israel's current military operation in Gaza, the court is considering Israel's operation in Palestinian lands more broadly at the behest of the UN General Assembly. First to be heard will be Palestinian representatives, who will tell the court that Israel has consistently breached international law. India's Navy chief has said a deal to buy 31 armed drones from the US is expected to be signed in a matter of months. It's part of a potential $4 billion deal between India and US weapons manufacturers. Rebecca Bundan reports from Mumbai.
India's Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar says that the deal with the US for drones has been cleared by the Defence Acquisition Council, according to Indian media. The contract includes the possible purchase of 31 drones, missiles, and other military equipment by India from the US in a contract that would be worth some $4 billion US. And India's Navy chief says that while it's hoped that this will be signed in just a matter of months, that it could take up to 3 years for the drones to be operational in India, and that's because of delivery and manufacturing timelines.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
All right, text line's filling up, and we're going to get to Spencer in Minneapolis here in just a second. One of the questions that someone had on the text line was, if I can find it, they're filling in. Jeff, do you teach your kids that it's okay to lie and commit a crime so long as there are no victims? Obviously not. But here's my question. Most people I know try to pay as little taxes as possible. That's just the way they do. They try to find every angle. They give away, gifts and 501c3 and donations, and they register their companies in certain ways and different tax structures. And so I think it's pretty common that most Americans try to pay as little taxes as possible, and in some cases try to showcase they have as little value as possible. And then they turn around and sell their homes, for instance, for as much as they possibly can. So how is this different? That's just the question I have. How is this different? If, you protest your tax assessment and you want your property to be valued at $100,000, but then when you go to take it to market, you try to showcase it as being worth $200,000, should you be fined? I don't know. Let's go to Spencer, Minneapolis, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Spencer.
Morning.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Great. What's up?
So when I was going through certifications and state and federal licensing for loan origination, when we got into the section that discussed commercial real estate, they described it in class as wolf on wolf, or wolf versus wolf. And the rules governing commercial versus residential are totally different. Now, I'm not saying that excuses anything, but what I am saying is what that means is both sides are responsible for due diligence. 100%. And I'm sorry, but in a multi-million-dollar real estate deal, you're telling me the other side didn't verify?
Yeah, I mean, basically what they said was Nicholas Hay, who was the managing director at Deutsche Bank, just said, we relied on Trump's personal guarantee was the reason for favorable pricing on the loan.
Cop out. Okay, 100% cop out.
Interesting.
They have a responsibility. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors, to their board members, to do their due diligence, to go through and look at things. So I don't fault Trump for that. They could have very easily gone through and confirmed or evaluated and made sure his numbers, they accepted it. That's on them. That's not on Trump. I don't understand how we can forget those aspects of commercial real estate deals, that there are it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it and say, well, okay, is this a special circumstance because it's Trump? Yes. Is this kind of thing occurring on a daily basis in commercial real estate? Yes. And if you think it isn't, I encourage you to go out and talk to people who are involved in commercial real estate and get their opinion on it. And they will tell you, the experts that they have been interviewing, nonpartisan experts, are saying this is unusual. This case being brought is very unusual, meaning they don't see it a lot. So in New York, which is very clearly going after Trump every way they possibly can, you brought up the charity now as business and not being able to practice business, and a $355 million fine against him. And listening to that trial, the judge had already made up his mind before the trial had even started, and he said so out loud. So
Spencer, with that, why did the judge announce the ruling on fraud before the trial started? Because you're absolutely right. The only thing that was going on in the trial was the punishment. It was, so why?
Well, the question is where was the fraud trial?
It was before. The issue is that the preponderance of the evidence was so great before the trial, and Trump had nothing on his side to mitigate it, that the judge said, yes, before we even walk into the courtroom, that the attorney general has proved fraud. That's happened to him a couple of times so far. That's on him. That's not on the judge. That's on Trump being able to not mount a defense for what he has claimed to have done.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like Trump got his hand caught in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
And everybody else involved in the exact same world, I would be very concerned.
Yeah. Now, Spencer, with this, let me take it down. I'm very concerned about you as far as commercial real estate and what I think this is showing to me, rather than selective prosecution. To me, just as you talked about, we are pulling back the curtain and showing that, yes, the people involved in commercial real estate, the people with the higher net worth, the people that can afford the expensive lawyers, and the people that can obfuscate the rules get to play by a different set of rules than you and I and Jeff.
Yeah. Don't you remember the debate with Hillary Clinton where he said, I play by the same rules you do and your
Yes.
donors, and you
Yes.
don't fix it because they
right,
all
yes.
benefit from it.
That was such a great quote. Thank you for bringing it in. He was 110% right. You're absolutely right,
Yeah.
Spencer. Thank you.
So I appreciate it, Spencer. Thanks for the call. The question I still haven't, by the way, Spencer's line will be open here in just a second. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Spencer brings up a unique point. It's wolf on wolf in commercial real estate. So you have Deutsche Bank and you have the Trump companies, neither of which accused each other of harm, but then the attorney general, because of the way this law is written, gets to step in and claim that there was harm. Let's go to a lot of text messages. Let's go to Jim, line 2, Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, guys. I thought conservatives stood for small government. Am I wrong?
Yep.
I am wrong.
No, you're right.
No, you're right. You're right. We stand for small government.
I'm right. So are we actually arguing for an individual who has had 3,500 interactions with taxpayer-funded governmental courts throughout his business career? Is that, you do understand this is large government, right? And it's taxpayer funded.
Well, it depends on, I don't know what all the lawsuits are. It could be employee related issues. It could be, it could not, it might not be all stuff that he brings. It could be stuff brought against him.
3,500. How many is that a week over a 40-year career in business? I got to tell you, I don't think this is conservative. I think Mr. Trump has destroyed the Republican Party and what we stand for. He has enabled the Democrat Party to take over places they don't belong, and we now have the one-party system. And I truly believe the only reason we have Sleepy Joe Biden, the dead guy, as our president is Donald Trump invited him, brought him in 4 years earlier than he had to, because Donald Trump could have had another 4-year term. I think it's disgusting for us to call ourselves conservatives. I think we are fake conservatives if we are arguing for this gentleman that has used the government taxpayer-funded court system 3,500 times, and we are calling ourselves and him.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, you don't know how many times he's brought lawsuits. A lot of those could be against him. And what is he supposed to do?
He's interacted with the government court system. Now, you and I, as a businessman, how many times should we expect to be sued falsely by our employees and our customers they're all wrong? So Donald Trump can do no wrong.
No, I don't think anyone's saying that, but I don't think it's fair to say that, he's taken advantage of the court systems 3,500 times when we don't even know what he's brought or who's brought what against him or any of those types of things. I mean, do you know how many times a week Pepsi's sued?
No, I don't know how many times.
Oh, so how can you compare? How can
3 times a day?
How can you compare what? I mean, these most major corporations have giant law services, lots of counsels that represent them because they get sued for everything. So you don't know. You don't know what Donald Trump's being sued for.
That's a great statement, Jeff. How can I stand for Donald Trump? How can I stand against him? I think now we should be gathering information rather than thinking our political party can do no wrong. We got to dump this so-called fake conservative who borrowed the term "Make America Great Again" from Bill Clinton in the early 90s, of which he was a supporter. "Make America Great Again" was a phrase from Bill Clinton in Arkansas. Do we not understand this?
All right. Well, Jim, I appreciate the call.
Yeah,
thanks. Jim from Denver. Jim's line is open, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. I mean, most corporations I know have giant legal counsels and are fighting lawsuits all the time. So to claim that just because Trump has 3,500 lawsuits in his entire career, that's an astronomical amount. I mean, you got to compare it to other things. I just don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But we do know that it is the most court cases ever, most legal actions ever involved, but either as a plaintiff or defendant for any other presidential candidates in history. And the only reason I used that earlier is because
true.
Yeah, and the only reason I used that earlier is because for me it shows a pattern of behavior rather than something unique that we seem to have this conversation.
To me, it shows that he's a businessman. I mean, what? Barack Obama's going to have a bunch of lawsuits. He's a state senator.
No, but again, the reason I was using it as a point is because of at the end we all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, all of a sudden he's got all these legal actions against him. He had thousands beforehand. That's not different. You're going to have to show me why they're different.
So I want to get to this news. We're going to change topics a little bit. Feel free to continue to call in 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Colorado Politics over the weekend. Reporting this, Colorado lawmakers scrambled to find funds for schools and communities grappling with immigration crisis. Colorado's policymakers are looking for ways. They're opening the couch cushions to help communities grappling with the costs of accommodating roughly 40,000 immigrants who arrived in Colorado in the past year. The Department of Public Safety is requesting nearly $10 million in supplemental funding. So a supplemental funding, that means funding in addition to, for organizations to offer services and assistance to migrant families. These are your tax dollars. More specifically, the money will go towards housing and legal aid for the immigrants who came to Colorado after illegally crossing America's southern border. Colorado is committed to providing the resources we can for the communities and organizations working on the front lines to support new arrivals during the crisis. We are grateful for their work, a spokesperson for Governor Jared Polis told Colorado Politics. The budget request is a portion of the ongoing financial commitment the state has already provided and includes $4.9 million to support grants for legal support and community-based organizations focused on transition housing. Here's my question to you, listeners of 710 KNUS. How do you feel about your tax dollars going to be spent on housing and legal aid for illegal immigrants? In addition, some lawmakers are eyeing a one-time $24 million allocation for school districts. Thousands of migrants, students, have begun attending Colorado schools, buoying enrollment in Denver public schools, for example. In Colorado, the annual enrollment counts that determine state funding this year takes place on October 1st, but their arrival largely came after the account, which means that the districts have lost out on roughly $14 million. So Emily Sirota, Democrat in Denver, representative, is proposing to take $24 million from the state education fund and use that money for a grant program to the Colorado Department of Education. The program would then distribute funds to school districts seeing a significant increase in enrollment due to the arrival of immigrant students. My question to you all, how do you feel about your tax dollars, the money you worked following the rules, trying to do what you can in the state, going to housing, legal aid, and schooling for illegal immigrants? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Hey, we all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with Ultra Cure. Do you know I work out every morning before I get here? 3:45 in the morning, I'm up working out.
That's silly. That is ridiculous.
And Ultra Cure is helping me. Ultra Cure is a patented, non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using Ultra Cure find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience Ultra Cure for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of Ultra Cure. Ultra Cure is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. Take one at night, one in the morning. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try Ultra Cure today. Ultra Cure gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day Ultra Cur trial with no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll take your calls on this supplemental funding for immigration. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, Colorado Politics reporting that lawmakers are scrambling to find funds for schools, communities grappling with immigration crisis. The Democrats at the state capitol, along with the governor, would like to provide funding for legal aid so that they can stay here, I guess, indefinitely, housing so they have a place to stay indefinitely, and they want to be able to pay for schools. So they're asking for tens of millions of dollars in supplemental funding, $10 million in supplemental funding for Department of Public Safety, another $5 million to support grants for legal support, and then $24 million for schools so that we can educate them. Let's go to Adam, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Adam.
Hey, good morning.
What's on your mind?
Well, it's an election season, so the Democrats are going to fearmonger about abortion. You guys are going to fearmonger about immigrants, and nobody's going to talk about the biggest issue the nation faces, corruption and corporate crime. So it'll be fun.
I just read direct lines from the Colorado Politics, $10 million for Department of Public Safety, $5 million for legal aid, and $24 million for schools. I think those are just the facts. Do you think that money should be spent by taxpayers on illegal immigration?
I think you guys are going to fearmonger about immigrants until the election, and then you're going to stop. There was some data before the 2022 midterm. Remember the big caravan that was coming to invade? Fox News spent 33 hours covering that caravan before the midterms. And then the election happened, and then they didn't cover it anymore. It's almost like you guys are fear-mongering, right? To keep our attention away from corporate power and to direct it towards this powerless group called immigrants.
Tell me about the corporate power that you're concerned about.
I mean, every one of our elected representatives is bought and paid for by corporate power. And that's something that we need to address, but nobody's talking about it because you guys are all about immigration and the Democrats are all about abortion, and you're both bought and paid for by Goldman Sachs and Pfizer. And the corporate interest.
Adam, I just see where you're going with this. Got a question. Talk to me then about public funding of elections. Do you think that would be reasonable, and is that the way to get the corruption out of it? And if not, what then would be your solution?
No, 100% taxpayer-funded elections. There's a great saying from Molly Ivins, the deceased political commentator from Texas. You got to dance with them what brung you. You, as a politician, are owned by your donors. Your donors own you. If the taxpayers are the donors, then we own them. But right now, we are idiots, and we let the billionaires buy our elections. It is a retarded, stupid system that needs to be undone.
I can see that, Adam. I can see that. But one, do you think that the government would be the fairest adjudicator of how much money X, Y, and Z costs to run? And the other question I have is one after the government is, what's the impact on the average citizen not being able to, per se, express their political speech by sending a donation to a candidate that they support? What's the impact there?
I'm sorry, what was the first part again? I'm sorry.
Impact is the government fair? Is the government necessarily the fair adjudicator on how much money it's going to run for a particular race? And then do they cap it and say, okay, you can spend this, and if you spend a penny more, then there's going to be punishments?
Well, look, in a representative system, the government exercises the will of the people. So if the government doesn't do a good job, that's the voters' job to fix, right? It's our job to regulate the government in a representative system.
Fair point. I can see that. I still think it's a little bit messy. But then what about the political speech? That and again, I'm dealing with candidates, not necessarily issues. So the idea that if I'm in favor of a candidate, I'm not allowed that political speech to go ahead and support them by helping them run for office. What do you do with that?
Money is corporate. Well, again, are you talking about individuals submitting unlimited funds to the candidate they like?
Let's do this. Let's just, what I would do is you can draw whatever parameters you want on it. Let's just deal with the overarching issue, and however you want to define it is up to you. I will give you that runway. You can define it however you want. I'm just curious as to the how you would define it.
Well, if there's going to be no limits and we're going to say this is speech and there's no limits, then we'll have the system we have now, which is just corrupt.
Fair.
Where billionaires pay for it. So there's got to be a different way. We should, I'm not sure how to do this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an election official. It's a complicated issue, but I know that the politicians will work for their donors. I know that. That's just common sense.
That's
and right
great.
now it's the bankers.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's the hard problem is that there isn't a necessarily clean way to go about it that makes it better, because I agree with you that influence is bought based on the donations you make
100%
to the candidates.
I will tell you that down at the state capitol. That's exactly what happened.
Absolutely. But the other side of it makes it real difficult for me. But Adam, you made me think, man. Thanks.
Adam, appreciate the call. Adam's line is open, 303-696-1971. I want to get to Dean in just a second, because Colorado lawmakers scrambling to find funds to deal with schools and communities grappling with illegal immigration. Aurora, on the other side, considers halting support for migrants and homeless, prioritizing fiscal responsibility to its citizens. We'll get all of this and more.
You said citizens. We can't do that.
Citizens first. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver, 9 a.m., February 19th. Happy President's Day to you. Playing some of our top speeches from presidents over the years. Here's one recently.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Yeah, sad thing is he doesn't know that word. That's the problem.
He knows
It's a
those
surprise
words.
for later.
I mean, it's a far cry from.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I'm still inspired to that day. You think John F. Kennedy would be a Republican these days? You think he'd still be a Democrat?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because of the shifting in the natures of the parties.
Yeah, they have
really
shifted.
Tough.
That's right.
That's a really tough one.
All right, let's go to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Thank you, Jeff. Republican. 39 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today with blue skies. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Aurora police searching for a suspect they believe is responsible for a series of hit and runs and carjackings Sunday night. A carjacking on Sunday night. Officials say reports of multiple hit and runs started coming in at around 6:30, and a carjacked vehicle was later found on E470 and I-70. A woman was reportedly assaulted during an attempted carjacking as well. No description of the suspect has been released, and he's believed to be on the run. A man has been injured in an officer-involved shooting in Adams County. Deputies responded to a reported shooting along West 80th Avenue just before 5 o'clock, and a deputy ended up shooting the man shortly after he arrived at the scene. The man was taken to an area hospital, and there's no word on his condition. Colorado Representative Brandi Bradley joined Jeff and Bill this morning. She is puzzled why Democrats didn't support her bill going after child sex criminals. She wants to know why we're protecting pedophiles, allowing only probation for child sex crimes.
The one person that came to testify in opposition, who is a pro-sex worker, actually said that this bill was going to harm more kids because kids in the LGBTQ community that get kicked out of their homes need the ability to make money by prostituting themselves. On the record said that.
The widow of a Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, says the Kremlin is hiding his body in an effort to cover up his murder. The vocal critic of President Vladimir Putin died last week in a Russian prison, and his mother and lawyers have reportedly been denied access to his body. Former President Trump spoke on Sunday after being fined $355 million by who he calls a crooked judge, and he also brought up some encouraging data for his campaign.
We're doing phenomenally with the African American voters. The black population understands it. And with Hispanic, the same thing. We're doing numbers that are 30, 40, 50% higher than they ever heard of before. We're winning places along the border that no Republicans ever won before.
All right, in sports, the Indy 500 will be today. It was postponed due to rain. NBA back in action Thursday with the Nuggets. They take on the Wizards. The All-Star weekend is over. 211 to 186, the final. The East won. The Avs over the Coyotes 4-3. It's 32 in Lafayette, 37 in Centennial, 39 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take...
All right, Colorado lawmakers scrambling to find funds for schools and communities grappling with immigration crisis. Colorado Politics reporting over the weekend. The Department of Public Safety is requesting nearly $10 million in supplemental funding for its organizations. The governor is requesting $5 million in order to provide legal support to community-based organizations focused on transitional housing for illegal immigrants. And lawmakers are eyeing $24 million for schools to deal with this. I want to contrast this with Aurora. Aurora considers halting support for migrants and homeless, prioritizing fiscal responsibility to citizens. The city of Aurora is considering a proposal that would halt the endless support of migrants and the homeless unless organizations agree to cover the associated costs. The resolution presented during City Council's Federal, State, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee meeting underscores Aurora's commitment to fiscal responsibility and living within its means amid the challenges posed by the mostly self-inflicted migrant crisis. While Aurora takes pride in its status as the most diverse and global city in the state, the city recognizes the limitations of its financial and local resources when it comes to offering sanctuary or support to migrants and the homeless. The proposed resolution, co-sponsored by council members Danielle Jurinsky and Steve Sundberg, emphasizes the city's obligation to prioritize the needs of its citizens and residents above all else. Council member Jurinsky affirmed, "We are not going to shut down our rec centers. We are not going to cut our police budget. We have fiscal responsibility to our citizens, residents, that we have to live within our means, and we can't overpromise and underdeliver." The sentiment echoes Aurora's commitment to maintaining essential services and resources for its community while addressing financial implications of supporting external populations. So here's my question to 710 KNUS listeners. You have a Colorado divided right now. You have the city of Denver. You have the leaders down there at the state house, state senate, that want to open up supplemental funding. So they're going to take taxpayer dollars to spend on this immigrant crisis for housing, for community safety, for schools, for legal aid. Democrats going, we need to spend taxpayer dollars on that. The more conservative-led Aurora saying, no, we are going to prioritize, first and foremost, our citizens. And if we don't have the money to serve illegal immigrants, we don't have the money to serve illegal immigrants. Who's right here? I'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Do you want your community to spend tax dollars on illegal immigrants? Or do you agree with the leaders of Aurora that says we spend money first and foremost on our citizens, and if we don't have the money, we don't have the money? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. This is going to directly affect Colorado here. It's directly going to affect you and the place where you live. And I'd love to hear from you. Do you agree with the Democrats, or do you agree with more conservative Aurora leaning? Phone lines starting to fill up. We'll get you on the line here in just a second as Bill gets you processed through the system. It's going to affect you. Are you okay spending your tax dollars here? Is that the more compassionate thing to do? All right. You want to go to, who should we go to first, Bill? All right. Bill's processing. We got all the call lines are filled, which I appreciate. If you can't get through, text in on the 710 KNUS app. I'd like to hear from you on this issue. Let's go with Louis, Highlands Ranch. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Louis.
Hi, good morning. How you doing?
Great. What do you think about this?
So I think it's, we have to take our state and our cities back. I agree with Aurora. We cannot fund illegal immigration. We cannot allow to use our funding that we have, that are taxpayer dollars, for illegal immigrants who come here. And I see Denver is now proposing that maybe they will make them some type of consideration that they can be firemen and policemen. An illegal immigrant, as I did, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I served 4 decades. You cannot swear and affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado and so forth, and defend our flag if you are illegally here. And you can't have an illegal person making arrests on citizens of a city or a country if they're illegally here in the first place. It's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, their first act into the country was to break our laws. I mean,
Exactly.
and then they're going to swear to uphold our laws.
And I'm sure that there are some of them that are very nice people and they're trying to make things better and life better for themselves and their kids. But there are other people who don't care. There are criminals who are here. They've already said that. In fact, this current administration has said that there are criminals and there are unvetted people who are here in this country. So we're just waiting for something bad to happen. And we cannot allow that. We need to hold strong to our morals and values of what this country was built on. And I deal with illegal migrants every single day. And it's getting worse, and it's getting worse. Most of them, a lot of them, have fistfuls of cash. I was told that they sell all of their assets off before they come here, but some of them, I mean, they don't. And all the people who are coming here from Mauritania and so forth, they don't have the same amounts of money and other things that other people do, but they are lost and they are being overwhelmed. In fact, some of them are saying, how do I get back to my country?
Now, Louis, got a question. Got a question for you, Louis. Now, you've been listening to the show for more than 2 hours. You know that my role here is kind of to make things more complicated. So welcome. Yes, what we're going to do is what I want to do is talk to me about the idea of the illegal immigrants versus people that have claimed asylum. Because technically, if they show up at the border and they claim asylum, until that case is adjudicated, they are legal in the country. They are allowed to come in. They're allowed to do residency. They're allowed to work. Now, you and I can agree that a significant portion of those people are likely lying about it. We can agree. But what I want to know, you being a former law enforcement, what do we do once that claim of asylum is made? Because technically now they're legal.
Technically they are. And technically they have to wait for their court case.
Yeah.
And if you're getting 1,000 cases per week, that's going to increase. And then those people are out and about in the cities doing whatever they want. I've seen false identification. I've seen false green cards. And in a wallet that was turned in to me were 2 false identification cards, 2 false green cards.
Yeah.
And with those green cards were 2 different Social Security cards. They had 2 different numbers, but the photographs were the same person. So they are fraudulent. Where are they getting it from? Who knows?
Yeah.
But the problem is they try to get work. I saw something on the news the other day, last week. A woman was in a dilemma. She had a car. She sold it to someone. They said they're an illegal migrant. And then later they come back there and say they can't get ID, they can't get insurance. So they want her to insure the car that she sold to them. Yes, they want her to insure the car. And she asked, what should I do? And I'm thinking, well, that's just a common sense issue. You say no.
Right.
You can't afford to do that.
Louis,
there's so many people
really
out there.
appreciate the call. Louis
Thanks.
from Highlands Ranch. Text messages are great.
You feel for that woman because she's trying to be kind. She wants to help.
Right.
And that's where a lot of us as Christians, that's where our heart is.
Right.
That we want to do that. But yeah, the
Bible
answer is no.
says to take care of the alien in your midst. But there's a lot of. I wrote a piece for the Denver Post years ago about this, what that actually means with regards to laws and following laws. I live in Aurora. I'm so pleased. This is a text message. I live in Aurora. I'm so pleased with all conservative city council, most of them, and the mayor in this resolution. It's just like the federal government that are taking care of somebody else's borders in Ukraine and not taking care of ours. There's more people that have died from fentanyl than have died in Ukraine from this war. There needs to be prioritized spending on American citizens. I think 80876 texts. Jeff, the answer is self-evident. 5600 here. Anyone that advocates spending tax dollars on illegal aliens except to promptly deport them is an enemy of the people. We have one open line. Louis' line is open, 303-696-1971. Who we want to go to next there, Bill?
Oh, let's take Aaron up top.
Aaron, Denver, Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Aaron.
I totally agree with that text message. If you're not taking care of American citizens first, it is criminal. You guys brought up, Trump and this $355 million insanity. I don't agree with the ruling. You can go after Trump, but you're still not. But there's corruption here in the state of Colorado. There's corruption in New York City. There's corruption in California. But Trump gets $355 million fine slapped on his forehead. I mean, it is just ridiculous. The hypocrisy. And it's hypocrisy on steroids. Hypocrisy. What's going on in this country?
Aaron, I agree with you. It is wild. We got into this earlier where we were talking with Brandi Bradley about this, the fact that Democrats did not support a bill that would have put harsher crimes on those that traffic children, purchasing children for human trafficking. Donald Trump gets slapped $355 million fine in New York City. It doesn't seem like it's fair.
Oh, no, it's not fair. Period. It's laughable. But, either I'm going to laugh or either I'm going to cry. I prefer to laugh because I know what's going on in New York. It's insanity.
Aaron, I got a question for you. Let's say that we have, if we're dealing with criminals, do you think that if the criminal was unrepentant and talking about the fact they'd probably do this crime again, would you increase the penalty or decrease the penalty for them?
I will increase the penalty.
Okay, now, that's fair. I agree with you. That's why Trump has a $355 million judgment. That's what the judge outlined inside of that ruling, that this judgment is so high because the independent monitor that was looking at the case found no regret, no contrition, no sorry. In fact, they were indignant over being brought up about lying about their, the fraud, and they showed every indication of continuing it. And that's why it's so high. If he would have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Judge, we'll never do this again," he'd probably walk out of there with a $10 or $15 million fine. But because he said, not only are you persecuting me, I did nothing wrong, we're still going to continue doing it. That's why it's so high. For me, it's because Trump opened his big fat mouth. That's why it's so high.
Well, like I said, even though Trump opened his big fat mouth, Trump will. I agree with Trump on one thing, that he will appeal it, even if until he has to keep repealing and appealing and keep fighting and keep fighting.
That appeal's going to be interesting.
Aaron,
keep an eye on it, man.
I'm with the Babylon Bee here that said the fine is just high enough to stop him from running for president. So, Aaron, I appreciate the call.
Headline.
Denver, Aaron from Denver, his line's open 303-696-1971. Jacqueline here from Nebraska. Jeff, I heard from a cousin of mine that Portland, Oregon, Chicago, New York, San Francisco has already hired illegal immigrants as law enforcement and police officers. Denver's going to do the same thing. These unidentified foreigners are going to have guns and they're going to be policing us. Meanwhile, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you're going to have to take an annual concealed carry case. I don't know if that's true, if they're hiring illegals for police. That seems insane to me.
Yeah, it would depend. Again, it would depend on how they go through. I'd imagine they're doing it not, with a background check of some sort, because they do it with all applicants. So that's what I would want to know. What is the background check that they're going through? And again, if the individual, let's put all deference and let's just tilt towards whoever's hiring this illegal. The person could be here claiming asylum, and they could be able to verify who they are, and they might have experience, and they might be able to do this. Maybe if we connect all those dots, I might be able to get there. But I admit that is probably so statistically small of the pool and population that it probably is not significant to make any dent in the law enforcement. So while I agree that it may be able to happen, the likelihood of all those things lining up, I think, is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
Lee in Longmont, go Billy, go. You have the correct facts about Trump. Keep telling the truth despite the others trying to cover for Trump. Let's go to Marcus in Aurora. Marcus, you're on the Jeff and Bill show, 710 KNUS. Good morning, Marcus.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, good. What's on your mind?
Well, I love living in Aurora, and I lived in Denver for about 8 years, and I moved out of there way back. And it's changed so much. But the difference with Aurora is that we've got a lot of people from all over the world here, but they're legal.
Yeah.
And they run businesses. We got a good police force. The biggest thing about being in Aurora, we don't have missions. We don't have all this stuff.
You don't have
If a family's in-
missions?
Yeah, we just.
What
no.
are missions? Sorry, I'm not understanding.
What I'm saying, the homeless go.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Samaritan House
Homeless
or
missions.
Jesus
Gotcha.
Saves.
Yeah. Okay.
Where we have, we take care of our people that are down and out. We give them vouchers, food, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And and we keep the bus stops cleaned up. But the people out here work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And in Denver, it's like, I don't know. You go down there and tell me what you see.
Well, I think, Marcus, to your point, you're going to have a real life experiment here, right? The city of Denver saying we need more funding, more taxpayer dollars for illegal immigrants. The city of Aurora considering halting support for migrants and homeless, prioritizing first fiscal responsibility to citizens. So here's the ultimate question. Which city is going to be flourishing more? Which city is going to be better? Which one do you think, Marcus?
I already know. People pay taxes in Aurora and they take care of them first.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
Adams and Lakewood, they're doing the same thing. So
yeah, Marcus, I appreciate the call from Aurora. Having this discussion, the city of Denver and Democrat lawmakers down at the state capitol wanting to spend tens of millions of dollars more of taxpayer dollars on illegal immigrants. The city of Aurora considering halting all this. Marcus's line was open. It's just about to be filled. 303-696-1971. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR or visit advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. Let's go to Max Loveland. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, 710 KNUS. Good morning, Max.
Good morning.
What's up?
I wanted to take issue with Billy's thing or saying about Trump not being contrite.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people have ever gotten a commercial loan in their life, but trust me, the bank's going to go through your financial statements. They're going to take whatever estimate you think the property is worth and reduce it by 60%. They're going to have their own people that actually do the assessment, and they're only going to give you money at about 60% of what the thing's worth. So what's he supposed to be contrite about? That he followed the banking rules?
Well, actually, he didn't. And that's the problem in this, is because, again, the banks also did not follow the rules you outlined. And the banks do hold some of the responsibility on this, in my mind, because they did not verify the assets. Deutsche Bank has outlined that and said they took Trump's word. Now, what hurts is Trump sits in a different level than you or I based on commercial real estate by his own admission. Trump has gone around the country for years now talking about how he is a real estate expert. He's bragged about his ability to look at a property, know exactly how much it's worth, to look at a property and know the exact square footage. So then when he misrepresents the square footage and or the value of the property, he's held to a higher standard. And inside the ruling, what the judge said is, as they were going through and they were outlining the fraud, and the fraud being the properties are valued at one tax rate, and he's asking for a loan at a different rate at a much higher valuation, and in some cases misrepresenting the property. The idea being you're asking for a loan on a property, you say it's zoned for business when it's not. That's what he was doing in some cases. And so because of that, the independent monitor came back and said, Trump organization, Trump himself and his kids and the CFO are not contrite. They're not sorry about this. They show no contrition. They show no remorse. And in fact, seem to be swimming in the same direction and saying they are going to continue doing this because they think this entire process is BS. And so there's no indication that they will correct their behavior. That's why it's so hard. That's what happens.
So it is. So that ruling is so bad. Hochul got on the radio shows or the TV shows last weekend and said, we're not going to do this to the rest of the businesses in New York. That alone tells you how bad this is, right?
No, wait, who said that? What? Repeat. Who said the what? Who said what last week?
Hochul. Governor Hochul got on all the talk shows and all their media outlets and said, we're not going to apply this to anybody else.
I would
basically saying that they are chasing every business out of New York City and New York.
I mean, that's a fair critique,
that's the
Max.
only thing.
It is a fair.
I'm trying to tell you.
It's a fair point.
I'm trying to tell you right now that every real estate person in the country did exactly what Trump did.
Yeah, and if every real estate person in the country is lying, it doesn't make it okay. And if it is going to chase out people that are lying out of the businesses in New York, I fail to see why we're like, we need to keep the liars in charge. We need to make sure they have their businesses. To help me understand that one.
You need to fine everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what Hochul got on the radio last week and said, we're not going to do this to anybody else, which basically means that they're applying the law to one person only.
Max, I appreciate the call. Max from Loveland. I agree with Max on that one. We're going to get to Paul and Jim in just a second. Max's line is open, 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. India's Navy chief has said a deal to buy 31 armed drones from the US is expected to be signed in a matter of months. It's part of a potential $4 billion deal between India and US weapons manufacturers. Rebecca Bundan reports from Mumbai.
India's Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar says that the deal with the US for drones has been cleared by the Defence Acquisition Council, according to Indian media. The contract includes the possible purchase of 31 armed drones, missiles and other military equipment by India from the US in a contract that would be worth some $4 billion. And India's Navy chief says that while it's hoped that this will be signed in just a matter of months, that it could take up to 3 years for the drones to be operational in India, and that's because of delivery and manufacturing timelines.
The International Court of Justice in The Hague is opening hearings on Israel's 57-year occupation of lands claimed by the Palestinian authorities. Against the backdrop of Israel's current military operation in Gaza, the court is considering Israel's operation in Palestinian lands more broadly at the behest of the UN General Assembly. First to be heard will be Palestinian representatives, who will tell the court that Israel has consistently breached international law. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
Happy President's Day to you. 9:32, Monday, February 19th. We're playing some of the great speeches of presidents over the years. Here's one recently.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool.
Okay. That's awkward.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
So many questions.
All right, let's go to Paul. Line 2, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
What's up, Paul?
Well, I just wanted to speak to the subject of the migrants and being taken care of.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
I think that in years past, because I've been involved in volunteerism and taking care of people that are disadvantaged or whatever, I feel like that's should be a volunteer program, and it has worked in the past. There's plenty of private organizations out there that can help people.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't believe our tax dollars should be doing that because we didn't give permission for that to happen.
Yeah.
If we wanted to help people, we could do it on our own.
So-
we don't need to have government telling us that the taxes have to be done that way.
The Catholic Church, for instance, tends to be very sympathetic to immigrants. If the Catholic Church was paying to educate illegal immigrants as opposed to tax dollars, you probably wouldn't agree with the fact that they're coming across the border illegally, but you at least wouldn't be as frustrated with the idea that it's tax dollars going to educate illegal immigrants.
With that, I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent because that's what you guys kind of did. Somebody went off on Trump.
Probably
and I
me.
see Billy trying to say the same thing. So I guess I would say to that, who is responsible for that? That would be Biden, the administration, or whoever the puppet said. I don't know. But who is responsible for that? Who's going to be contrite for bringing all these people here? And
I don't think they're contrite at all.
But
Okay.
I would have issue. I would have issue with the verb that you have in that sentence. The verb "bring." That would be the issue that I have. I don't
Right.
think that Biden's bringing them to the country necessarily, but that's a personal thing.
Well, maybe,
I think he would
maybe
put
so.
them on
The
a
fact
plane
that-
if he could and bring them up here.
I disagree, but that's okay. We don't have to argue about that one because that gets a little into the weeds.
Thanks for your time,
Paul. Appreciate
thank
the
you.
call. Let's go to Jim. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I'm in the healthcare arena, and I just want to say those that are for all this illegal immigration, they need to go to Denver Health sometime and see how they are being overwhelmed. And, you know, you have finite services, and when you bring all these people and they don't provide their own health care, it is now incumbent upon American citizens to be doing that. And you don't have endless health care. It is already stretched with the current citizenry. And now when you put those people into it, you have a broken system. So those that want these people here should offer their health care for them in order to take care of them. You shouldn't be dumping them into the system. They don't buy it for themselves. I just think that those people we need to be conscious of that because they take two areas, healthcare and education.
Yeah.
And if we have endless education and endless healthcare, I'm all open for an open society. We have 1 billion people in the world that want to come here. So what is the number that's acceptable?
Right,
Ooh,
Jim?
that's
That's a
good.
good question. So Colorado politics, on your point about the healthcare, reporting that the UC health system assumed more than $17 million of uncompensated care for illegal immigrants. From November through January, UC health officials estimated that the health system saw roughly 5,800 immigrants who are new patients. This represents a 69% growth in this patient cohort compared to the same period the previous year. Jim, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
And most of the time, we are delivering our health care in the most inefficient means possible with the illegals and even the immigrants, even the ones that have claimed asylum, again, whether or not it's true or justified, because of how they show up in our healthcare system, that they are taking unfortunately for you and I, the most expensive route. And so then we're on the hook for later on.
Jim's line's open, 303-696-1971. Ralph, Colorado Springs, Trump and fraud. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ralph.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I mean, you've been using the phrase several times this morning of following the rules. And that basically is the question on this big verdict against Trump. He got it because he didn't follow the rules. In professional football, I'm kind of reminded of an old guy by the name of Conrad Dobler. Now, I don't remember who he played for, but Dobler was, how shall I say, he would guarantee the other team at least 50 yards and penalties every game because, well, unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, let me take that over to the commercial real estate. I've done it for a long time. I'm retired now. If Trump has a good valuation, he goes to the bank, they look at it and they say, okay, we'll take it. And well, we might charge you just a little more interest on it. Okay, things go right. Everybody walks out with a lot of money. Things go wrong. Then what happens is this. Trump goes into Chapter 11. And it's not like you and me with a loan on our house, where it doesn't matter that the loan is for $200,000 and the house is worth $100,000. We still have to pay the $200,000. Because of Chapter 11, Trump only has to pay $100,000 because the value of the property at the time of bankruptcy is what the loan gets reduced to. So he walks away with a little bit less money that he has to pay.
So, Ralph, you're saying that Trump played by the generally accepted rules of commercial real estate.
Precisely, but the problem with the generally accepted big table rules of commercial real estate is that the people who end up taking the real hit are not Trump, they're not the banks, they're the common taxpayers. Because they get to walk away from their losses.
Doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
The system is rigged to favor the big boys.
Yeah, I think that's the truth. Ralph, Colorado Springs, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Ralph's line is open, 303-696-1971. Let's go to Frank. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
How are you guys? That figure, Jeff, you just quoted about the increased dump of 5,000 plus patients on the UC system is a bit scary because that's a good hospital out there. They try to give top quality care. And I've seen that parking lot go from 2/3 full to overflowing in the last 2 years. I'm not saying what the reason is. Usually it's good care, but those kind of sudden numbers dumped on any healthcare system are a formula for it failing or not giving the kind of care that it could.
Yeah.
So those things need to be, I think this whole border thing and immigration thing is ripe for a bunch of NGOs, to match up people who want to come here via computer from the country they're coming from, wherever, or some intermediary company, matching them up, vetting them with a company here in America that needs an employee and sifting out the wheat from the chaff and getting only or most of the good ones. And they'll bring their families inevitably, but just keep it out the criminals. Now, that's one point. Now, on the second point, this thing of Trump, there are some real estate developers that will go in and borrow money on a property, and every real estate developer has different idea of what they want to make of this property in the end. Some of them want a 9 or 8 or 9 out of 10. Some of them want to make a 12 out of 10. And so they'll overbid it, put in money in the loan to make it a super property, an improved property, so that they got $100,000 property, they borrow $150,000, but they want to make it a $200,000 property and either sell it for the increased amount in the future. This is called future value, or they will keep it for increased rents. And I think you look at the type of properties Trump has built, that's his style. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and I'm not saying he doesn't have an over-the-top arrogance factor, but unfortunately, the judges and the DOJ and the different divisions are supposed to not be factoring that in. Just because somebody you don't like their arrogance factor, I don't think you can mete out unequal justice or two-tier justice.
Well,
So
Frank,
I think,
let's talk about some of the loans there just for a second on a point of information. Trump misrepresented his property in Mar-a-Lago. It is classified as a social club. He took out loans against it and valued it based on a personal residence. He also valued 40 Wall Street as making tens of millions of dollars a year in profit when it actually was underwater and it was losing money. He also took his New York apartment that is 11,000 square feet and claimed that it was over 30,000 square feet. Those aren't just coming in and taking out a loan above the value of the property in order to create improvement. That is lying about the subject that you're asking for the loan on, correct?
yeah, you can't do flat-out illegal stuff. Have you ever read his book, The Art of the Comeback?
No.
Okay, so the first one was The Art of the Deal. The second one was The Art of the Comeback. And this was when he went into underwater in New York, bankruptcy, there was a turnover in New York, and he had to come back. And he says he paid those banks back. I don't know the veracity of that. But the book is an interesting book, and it shows that he's not a quitter. So
Frank, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Frank's line is open, 303-696-1971. It's been a very busy morning talking everything from Trump's $355 million civil law verdict to hosting Rep. Brandi Bradley as to why the Democrats down at the state capitol killed a bill that would have put harsher penalties upon adults involved with child sex trafficking.
Now, this is only my feeling. I kind of think that the Dems were hoping that we would create, like they did with drug dealers, a safe space for the molestation. That if we could find a safe space for it, they'd be okay with it. Now, again, that is my personal opinion. That's what I see the decision making on the Democrat side. Dems, prove me wrong.
And then tens of millions of dollars being spent on illegal immigration from the city of Denver and from the state legislature. Now, Aurora contrasting itself, halting support for migrants and homeless, prioritizing the fiscal responsibility of citizens. So all of that, we still have a few minutes left. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971. If you want to talk about any of those, 303-696-1971. Hey, are you sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? You need to call QC Kinetics today. Hey, it's Jeff Hunt. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury. Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility, reclaim your independence, walk and run and play and live without the danger and trauma of surgery and without harmful drugs. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. That's 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. We'll get your calls when we return. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, we are back. Let's go to Sam in Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Sam.
Well, good morning. I use the rec centers a lot. I'm a senior citizen, and I just got notice that they're shutting down my rec center every Monday from here on out to cut for their budget. So does anybody know if our puke mayor is taking a pay cut, or our puke city council? Are they taking a pay cut and all this stuff?
You're talking about Mike Johnston in Denver and the city council of Denver. I'm guessing absolutely not. And he's going to head to the Super Bowl next weekend. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
That's
Yeah,
interesting,
we're
Sam.
suckers.
I like what you're saying there, Sam. It's interesting because I always come back to, and I forget the Japanese corporation, but about 10, 15 years ago, a company was coming up short, and they were going to have to fire thousands of people. The CEO said, reduce my salary to 1 yen because they shouldn't pay for our bad mistakes.
Wow.
And that's not what we're seeing.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sam, keep us up to date. Keep us up to date on what's happening
thanks,
in
my
your
friend.
rec center. If you missed any of the previous discussion, the city of Denver is seeking to spend tens of millions of dollars, the state government as well, on illegal immigration. The city of Aurora saying no because they're going to prioritize their own citizens first. This is Council Member Jurinsky. We are not going to shut down our rec centers. We are not going to cut our police budget. We have a fiscal responsibility to our citizens, residents, that we have to live within our means, and we can't overpromise and under-deliver. Let's go to Arnie Littleton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Arnie.
Good morning. Are you there?
We're here. Go
We
ahead.
got you, man.
Okay. I'll try to make this as quick as can because I see the clock is running down. But I worked for a big developer in Denver back in the 80s and 90s. And one of the things that seems to be missing out of all of the discussion so far is whenever we would propose a project, we had all these fancy renderings from the architects about, a development and this, that, and the other. But one of the big things that always had to happen when you went in to try to get a loan and get money for it, they had a job description for somebody called an appraiser. I haven't heard that mentioned at all today.
Yeah.
And so nobody ever got anything done without an appraiser, and they came in and they measured everything. So when Donald Trump said his house was this big and somebody else said it was that big and that he lied about it, where is the appraiser in all of this stuff?
Arnie, the former managing director of Deutsche Bank said they essentially relied upon his word.
Well, that's
Personal
their
guarantee.
fault.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
that.
their fault.
Well, and Deutsche Bank didn't get hurt on all this. And so that's what complicated this case is that, they didn't lose money. It was a mutually beneficial deal between two people. And here comes the district attorney of New York to get money from Donald Trump. Arnie, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call. Friends, it's been a wonderful show. By the way, all of this is on YouTube, Rumble. We have it podcasted, and you can always tune in and go back and listen to the podcast on 710 KNUS.
Despite us asking for them not to do it, they didn't listen. They said, yes, we're putting it up there. You guys shut up. And I'm like, fine, whatever.
Go watch the show
there.
Hey, coming up next is Charlie Kirk, followed by Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, The Officer Tatum Show, Jay Sekulow, and Mark Levin. The entire lineup at 710knus.com. The tip of the spear for the conservative movement takes place right here on 710 KNUS. And listen, you're going to get this back and forth with Bill and I, this type of independent conversation where you get to call in, be a part of this. There's no other show in the entire city of Denver like this. You can get just, straight news elsewhere or, commentary elsewhere, but where you're part of the conversation, where you get rock-ribbed conservative values
and then my
met
weirdness
with independence. You get Jeff and Bill Show. That's what you get on 710.
Who else are you going to call in and insult and talk and tell them they're a dummy elsewhere in the morning other than me? I am here for you. I am here for you to vent each and every morning because, I know I sit on an island and for good reason. But I just ask that when we have the discussion, be open and come with your facts. But I'm more than willing to listen, and I know I'm not always right.
And we'll respond on the 710 KNUS app.
Will we ever?
It's been a wonderful President's Day to be with you all. Let's finish with Joe Biden here.
But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks, Jeff. Finishing on a strong note. That's just
I don't know about
fantastic.
you. I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's what time is it in Washington, D.C.? 11:56, and Joe Biden probably is.
Yeah, that fills
going to
me with
bed.
such pride. I'm so happy and proud to be an American after that one.
For those
Thank
of you that need a little bit of an encouragement to get out there today, here's Joe Biden for you.
So thank you all. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
Wait, excuse me? I think there's, I didn't say that was okay, sir. You got to at least take me out for a drink first. We got to get down, man.
We never got to the discussion on how far the presidency has fallen since the days of Washington, but that'll be for another President's Day, I'm guessing. Hey, we love you all. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.